Super Summit Stories by third graders at Summit School in Winston Salem, North Carolina from 2022 to 2023. Sophia and the Corgi World by Abby Fowler. Once upon a time there was a world where everyone was a corgi and everything was perfect. All the flowers were perfectly in bloom and all the food was perfectly fresh and ripe and nothing ever went bad. All the trees had cotton candy in them instead of leaves, and it was never too wet or salty. And every single corgi was perfect. None of them were ugly or looked bad. They all had 2 big ears and 2 beautiful eyes and 1 cute nose and 1 little tongue in their little mouths, except Sophia. She was kind and friendly to everyone, but Sophia had a problem. She had no nose, and she wore clothes. All the other corgis had a nose and didn't wear clothes, so Sophia was one of a kind. It didn't make her ugly. She still had fluffy golden yellow fur around her mouth, but that didn't stop the other corgis from treating her differently. Sophia should have felt special and happy about herself, but she didn't feel good about things at all. In fact, she felt sad that she was not like all the other corgis. One day at school, a new girl came in. Right before class started, Sophia walked over to the girl and asked her what her name was. The new girl hadn't noticed Sophia. So when Sophia tapped her on the shoulder, the new girl jumped backward and gasped. Then she started to laugh. Uh-oh, Sophia hesitated. She wanted to run and hide. "What's your name?" asked Sophia. "My name is Kennedy. What's yours?" asked the new girl. "My name is Sophia," said Sophia. She noticed that Kennedy was wearing clothes, just like her. That made her feel like she might have a place where she belonged. At recess, Sophia and Kennedy ran to the bench and sat down. "Kennedy," Sophia asked, "why are you wearing clothes?" Kennedy took off her clothes, and underneath her clothes was no fur. "Gasp!" Sophia gasped. "So, what is under your clothes?" Kennedy asked. Sophia looked down sheepishly. "Come on," Kennedy said. "I showed you mine." Sophia slowly took off her clothes to reveal 2 lumps on her back. The lumps were folded bones that extended into 2 beautiful wings. I know this sounds crazy, but I, the author, know it is true, because I am Sophia. Nothing Should Be Caged by Abby T. and Kate T. The animal laboratory is a giant square room lined with tables holding measuring instruments and computers lit up with letters and numbers. The scientists do experiments on animals and breed different kinds of animals together to create new animals. Rover, a large dog with pointed ears, is laying on his dog bed near the middle of the room. He has ancient blood in his veins, and with it comes the ancient gift of kindness. Rover is always looking out for others. Across the room, skinny pig PJ is nibbling on a piece of wood in his cage, trying to keep from running around. PJ is very active and likes adventures. He's usually running and jumping in his cage. Both Rover and PJ were made in the lab. Rover was first made 10 years ago. PJ was made only 3 years ago. But they are best friends. Their makers are mostly nice people. They feed Rover and PJ, take Rover for walks, and clean PJ's cage. But Rover and PJ want more. PJ wants to get out of his cage, and Rover wants to go somewhere else without having to be on a leash. One day, Rover pushes PJ's cage off the table. When it hits the floor, the door pops open, and PJ pops out. "Let's go," PJ squeals. Rover's tail is wagging so hard that it shoves PJ's cage across the floor. PJ roams around the cabinets, shelves, and tables until he is in the computer area. PJ's little feet press a bunch of keys as he runs over the computer keyboards. One of the scientists has forgotten to log out of his computer. PJ doesn't know it, but as his feet randomly mash the keys on this computer, they typed an important password. A portal suddenly opens at the end of the room. PJ and Rover run into the portal, and this is what they find. Falling feeling, vertigo, butterflies tingling, hearts and throats, warm and peaceful, blue and purple, a touch of green, tumbling, turning upside down, twisting, falling, round and round, landing plop without a sound. They land in an open field with yellow, blue, and purple flowers surrounded by trees with full green leaves. Rover sees the trunk of a tree moving. It is a weeping willow. It stops halfway to Rover and PJ. Its long, vine-like limbs hang down over its body, waving like the tentacles of a jellyfish. Magic is wherever you are, the tree says, in thoughts because it didn't have a face. PJ decides he never wants to go back to his cage, but Rover isn't sure. How are we going to survive, he whines. We can eat the grass, PJ says. I don't eat grass, Rover says. Suddenly, a bowl of Rover's favorite dog food appears, covered in peanut butter and cheese. I can definitely eat that, Rover says, so the animals decide to stay. But back at the lab, the scientists miss them. They see that the portal has been opened and can see through the entrance how happy the animals are. But the scientists are too scared to go into the portal themselves. We should just close the portal and let them be happy. PJ has claws and Rover has teeth. They can protect themselves if they have to. The scientists agree, and Rover and PJ live happily ever after. The River Home by Anna Harris. A long time ago, there was a swamp in the countryside in England. The swamp was green, slimy, and filled with algae, mold, and mildew. Many people thought bad things about it. One summer, a rumor passed around that planes had been crashing in the swamp. It wasn't true. Nonetheless, people had heard creepy creaks and cracks coming from the swamp entrance. They didn't know these sounds were actually just the owls that lived in the forest. Some said, "It's haunted." "It's slimy," others said. "It will change," some people said, the ones who know that things don't ever stay the same. They were right. One summer, a fire bloomed within the forest nearby. Many homes were destroyed, and many animals had to leave their homes. The closest place for the animals to go for safety was the swamp. But a small river in the swamp didn't appreciate any of this. When a baby raccoon named Lucy asked to move in, the river rudely shook her water. Many days passed, and more animals visited, but the river's answer was always the same. "No," the river said, "no way." Ducks, raccoons, foxes, and other forest creatures came to ask the river if they could live there. Winter was approaching, and the animals had no place to hibernate. Still, the river would not let them in. One fall day, the animals stopped showing up. The river stood still. Nothing. 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 The river became sad and lonely. She thought, "I guess I did make friends." She thought about the ducks that used to swim and play in her. She began to cry. The tears went out of the swamp, and the river was flooded with green, disgusting water to the point that it looked like a lake. In the field where they had gathered, the animals heard water crashing in the distance and felt the ground beneath them growing moist. Something must be terribly wrong, they all thought, so they went back to the swamp that led to the river. "Don't cry," Lucy soothed, looking down into the river from its bank. The river looked up. "I've never had such a good friend," a fox said. "Can we move in?" The river thought for a minute. "Sure," she said. Then, for once, the river was happy. The animals had made her their home. Epilogue. One day, a little girl who lived south of the swamp walked by it. It was different. She heard birds chirping, and everything was bright green and pretty. She showed her dad, who was a famous worldwide explorer. He went in and looked. He called his friends from all over the world. They came right away. An explorer named Rob said, "This could be a national park." Everyone agreed, and later that year it was done. People from all over Europe came to visit, to see foxes, birds, deer, and raccoons. With the animals' help, the dank swamp became a beautiful forest. The animals in the forest didn't mind the construction. All that changed was a driveway on the outskirts of the forest and a post that held the map. The river was never sad or greedy. The ducks played in her more than ever. Lucy the raccoon came to visit her every single day. Write Joy by Anna Perry. One fine day, a little girl named Lily was coming down for breakfast. Then before she could chew her pancakes, "Pajamas," said her dad. Lily rushed upstairs, got in her clothes, and came back downstairs to eat her breakfast. Then, before her dad could tell a dad joke, Lily said, "Mom, Dad, can I write a book today?" "Okay," said her mom. "Of course," said her dad. Lily always wanted to be an author. She finished her breakfast very early so she could get started. But before she could get to her room, her dad tried to make her laugh with a silly dance. Once he was finished dancing, Lily went into her room. Then when she got her first piece of paper, her mind was blank. All she could manage to write was, "Once upon a time." So she threw that paper away. Then on the next paper, she also couldn't write anything. But then on her third paper, when she was about to throw it into the trash, she saw a book on her shelf and it seemed to be glowing. She walked closer to the book and took it off the shelf and opened it, and then, boom! Weird symbols swirled in the air. A big glowing portal appeared below her, and everything in her room seemed to be falling down the hole, even the striped socks she had not worn in a month. Then everything went black. When Lily woke up, she was in a place she had never seen before. When Lily woke up, she looked around her and had not a single clue what was happening. All she could see were trees with giant mushroom caps and wood that looked like it acted like a mirror. Then she looked down and saw an amulet in her hand. She remembered holding on to something during that fall. When she got up and dusted herself off, she looked behind her and saw a skunk. "Ah!" screamed Lily. But then instead of spraying, the skunk seemed to have puffed up like a balloon. Then the skunk popped and a flamingo appeared. And then a cotton ball appeared. The flamingo ate the cotton and sneezed out a hairball and flew off. "Yuck," said Lily. "This place is weird already." Chapter 3. Lily started walking through the forest, wearing the amulet. On the way, she saw 6 sick purple skunks, 7 frogs doing tricks, 8 flies eating fries, 9 limes covered in slime, and 10 hens eating their pens. Then she saw a cave. Chapter 4. She walked inside the cave where it was dark, but she could still see. There on the ground was a puddle, and in that puddle she saw herself, hunched over her desk, asleep. "I must wake myself up," she thought. She leaned down and reached toward the puddle. She touched the water with her finger, causing a bunch of circles to expand across its surface. At the same moment, she woke up at her desk. She rubbed her eyes and stretched her arms. Then she looked at the blank sheet of paper in front of her. This time, she had more than one word to write, and she learned an important lesson. Whenever you write, write with joy. Frogzilla and the Super Pups from Outer Space by Asher Horman and Alston Team. Frogzilla was once sleeping in the cave where he had lived his whole life. It was a deep, dark, snow-covered cave surrounded by ice on a hill in the snowy mountains of Colorado. Frogzilla was woken by a big thud on the hill. He had never heard anything like this in his whole life. He said, "Whoa!" Frogzilla made his way to the front of the cave and peered out. He was surprised to see a group of pups across the horizon. The pups had fallen out of an alien spaceship, and they apparently had great powers. Frogzilla saw one of the pups disappear and reappear on his shoulder. This dog's name was Shadow Pup, and he was the leader of the group. Shadow Pup had long, black, curly fur. He was big for being a young dog. Another pup was on an icy cliff, and it had melted all the snow around it using fire from his paws. The pup's name was Firestripe. Firestripe was a small brown dog with a red stripe down his back. Another pup, named Icy Pup, had fantastic blue fur and made a sled out of ice it formed with its paws. Frogzilla had a pup on his head, and he didn't know how it got there. The pup on his head jumped up into the air and started flying. She had magical pink wings that came out of the sides of her body, and her name was Sky. The last pup moved Frogzilla's cave by using his powers to pick it up and move it to the base of the hill. His name was Cole. This angered Frogzilla, and he swung his tail at Cole and screeched out a loud screech. In fear, Icy Pup froze Frogzilla's tail. Once Frogzilla broke free from the cave, he said he was sorry for hitting the pup, Cole. But this did not satisfy Cole, who picked up a rock, threw it at Frogzilla, and hit him in the chest. "Ouch!" Frogzilla yelled. Then he softened and said, "I'm sorry. Would you like to come into my warm and humble home to drink some hot chocolate and eat some pup cookies?" Shadow Pump answered, "As long as you don't hurt us." Frogzilla agreed. So the pups said yes, and Frogzilla said, "You can come in as long as you don't hurt me." Frogzilla went into the cave with the pups. They had hot chocolate with special marshmallow dog treats in the warm, cozy cave. The cave was extremely dark, but the flames made shadows on the cave walls. Then Frogzilla and the pups hiked for hours all the way to the top of the Colorado Mountains. It was a damp, snowy hike. There were many clouds blocking out the sun. They were hiking up mountain after snowy mountain. When they had climbed to the top of the tallest mountain, they squealed with glee as they sledded down on ice sleds made by Icy Pup. The sledding adventure was full of fun twists and turns. Some of them flipped. Some of the sleds veered off the course with sharp turns. Frogzilla crashed into a tree and it cracked his sled. Frogzilla said he would carry the pups' sleds. On the way down, they got lost in the winter forest. They hiked and hiked, but they could not find their way out. The pups saw a man laying on a large rock in the woods, looking through binoculars toward the pups and Frogzilla. Shadow Pup suggested, "Why don't we go through this part? It must lead back to the sledding trail." Frogzilla agreed. "Let's go down there." The trail led to the nearby village. The man with the binoculars turned out to be a soldier who spied for the military, and he alerted his command that the group of pups and Frogzilla were headed their way. The military was suited up and ready to get rid of Frogzilla. They used their ice rays to freeze Frogzilla. Shadow Pup said, "Frogzilla, he's frozen." Shadow Pup got to work to sabotage the military. He and Firestripe worked to unfreeze Frogzilla. Firestripe used his powers to his advantage, and he said, "Yes, I unfroze Frogzilla." Sky used her powers to drop a giant rock on the military. Frogzilla used his tail to knock out the army. Quickly, Frogzilla and the pups ran back up the mountain to get to the cave. Frogzilla said, "Getting up the mountain is exhausting." They were all exhausted when they reached safety. They were so tired that they slept for days. Not yet rested, Frogzilla woke up to hearing yelling outside of the cave. He didn't know it, but a snow soldier had followed them up the mountain and placed a tracker on the cave so that the military could find Frogzilla and the pups. The military was outside the cave, yelling to wake up Frogzilla and the pups and capture them for scientific study. When he learned about what was happening, Professor Funnyhair followed the military into the mountains. He had a secret lair in the basement of his mountain cabin and wanted to find out about the mysterious powers of the super pups and use them for his own powers. Now he was yelling into the cave, asking if the pups were with Frogzilla. Luckily, Frogzilla knew of a secret passage that led up to the top of the mountain, so they were able to escape the military outside the cave. Frogzilla and the pups raced toward the back of the cave and down the tunnel that led to the top of the mountain. The soldiers ran into the cave and tried to follow through the secret passage, but Cole picked up a huge rock from the ground and pushed it into the hole until the soldiers, blinded by the sunlight bursting through the cave, ran into the rock and were blocked. Unfortunately, when Frogzilla and the Super Pups got to the other end of the passage, more soldiers were waiting for them with net cannons. In a choreographed effort, the soldiers all shot their nets at once, trapping Frogzilla in a woven mess of nets. Frogzilla was captured and didn't know what to do other than try to rip out of the nets. Firestrike used his flame powers to burn through the netting successfully, but then the soldiers surprised Firestrike with their ice ray technology. The puppy was instantly frozen solid. Cole, Sky, Shadow Pup, and Icy Pup ran back down the secret passageway where a huge net was waiting for them. Shadow Pup said, "Stop, pups! Cole, take the net off Sky. Sky, use a wind tornado to twirl up the net." The people stopped fighting and gazed at the pups from outer space with amazement. "Do not be afraid," Shadow Pup said in a soft voice. The people looked confused. "Do not be afraid," Shadow Pup said again, louder this time. "Frogzilla is good, not bad. He gave us hot chocolate. He is our friend." Frogzilla held up a hand to show where he was, even though it was obvious. "He can be your friend, too." The people rejoiced. Icy Pup made sleds for the pups and Frogzilla to get back to his cave, but before they left, Icy Pup made snow cones for everyone. Sky, who had flown to the nearby fountain drink flavor factory, returned with a tray full of flavors and poured them into the snow cones. The people loved them, except for the evil scientist. Professor Funnyhair raced back to his cabin to get his giant freeze ray to freeze all of the pups in Frogzilla. The pups in Frogzilla had already left on their sleds when the evil scientist, Professor Funnyhair, returned. The evil scientist tried to follow, but he could not keep up. Then he tried to get to the cave, but the cave was blocked off by a big boulder, and when he got there, the military was lined up outside, protecting the cave. When Professor Funnyhair tried to run away, the military froze him with their super-powered freeze rays and arrested him on the spot. As he was being frozen by the freeze ray, he screamed in anger, shaking his fists and declaring, "You will regret this." Professor Funnyhair was carted away by the soldiers and sent to the highest security military prison to defrost. The end. The Mystery on a Cruise Ship by Betsy Hodgson and Ren Luthi. Maddie Kent turns and catches the basketball just before it hits her face. She dribbles the ball down the court and sees a clear shot. She takes the shot and the ball goes in the net. The Lynx team wins the game. Now it's time to party. Nora, Josh, PJ, and Mr. Kent come home from the game and set up a party to celebrate the basketball team's win. They had made a sheet cake that is chocolate swirl cake with purple and blue icing, the team colors. After the whole basketball team, spectators, friends, and family arrive to celebrate, Mrs. Kent hears the doorbell ring, and the mailman delivers tickets for a 3-week cruise. She places the package on the table for after the party. The team played so hard that they drink all the pink lemonade and fruit punch. They put on their favorite music and dance. They also play ping pong in the game room. When all the food is eaten, everyone leaves because it is getting late. That's when Mrs. Kent remembers the delivery. As she opens the package, she exclaims, "I knew they were rewarding me with something, but not something like this. A 3-week cruise." Mr. Kent asks, "Are you sure they're not tricking us?" She answers, "Yes, and we need to pack. We leave in the morning." Each of the 6 people in the Kent family start to pack their own suitcase for the cruise. The girls pack toothpaste, toothbrush, deodorant, blush, and lip gloss. They just turned 13, so they care about that kind of stuff. Maddie has a basketball toothbrush, and Nora has a microphone toothbrush. The boys pack deodorant, toothpaste, and their Spider-Man and SpongeBob toothbrushes. Everyone goes to bed at 9:30 and must get up at 4 a.m. to finish packing. Their mom keeps asking them if they've packed everything, and the kids say, "Kind of." At 8 o'clock in the morning, they leave for their 2-hour drive to the beach where the cruise ship is in port. On the drive, the boys play their Switch, and the girls text their friends and watch YouTube. Once the Kent family gets to the boat, they get settled and unpack in their 2-bedroom suite. PJ, Josh, and the twins, Nora and Maddie, throw their bags at their parents and run off. PJ and Josh go to the game room, and the girls explore the boat and joke around. Their parents go to a coffee shop on the ship and enjoy time alone together. After lunch, the girls are soaking up the sun from the right side of the pool deck when Nora and Maddie suddenly see something green and shimmery emerge from the water. Nora excitedly asks Maddie, "Did you see that?" Maddie says, "Yes, I did, but what do you think it was?" "Could it be a mermaid tail?" Nora asks. Then they notice an upper body that looks like a little girl, followed by what appears as a long green tail with a pointed, heart-shaped fin at the end. It is moving across the waves. Nora exclaims, "Let's check it out when we dock at the next port." Something splashes against the water, and as it disappears, the water starts to glow. "What?" Nora and Maddie gasp at the same time. There is a scuba diving activity at the next stop, and after asking their parents, the girls decide to sign up so that they can try to find the mermaid. When they hear the horn, they know the boat is docking. The girls have dived before, so they dart off the boat and quickly head to the scuba stop. They pull on their gear and begin their search. Once under the water, Maddie and Nora see plastic bottles and soda cans scattered across the ground. As Maddie dives deeper and reaches for the trash, Nora searches for the mermaid. Maddie gets her foot tangled in seaweed, and rocks fall on her foot as she pulls a large piece of trash from the ocean floor, all while trying to get free. She is stuck. Nora waves her arms and points, signaling to get help. Maddie is not very scared until she sees a shark. When Nora sees the shark, she suddenly gets scared too and tries to free Maddie, pulling so hard that Maddie twists her ankle injuring herself. Nora can't lift the rock or untangle the seaweed and is beginning to lose hope. A mermaid swoops in, quickly removes the rock, and cuts the seaweed with a sharp shell. She swims Maddie to shore, carrying her above the water so she can breathe. Maddie is nervous, since she does not know where the mermaid is taking her. Is she taking me to shore? Are we going to the island or somewhere else? Maddie thinks. Nora follows behind the mermaid, swimming with Maddie. Maddie's eyes are closed as the mermaid drags her onto shore. Before she can open her eyes, the mermaid is gone, but Maddie knows she was there. Nora comes onto shore, crawling because she is so out of breath. Nora helps Maddie get up and walks her to her parents. Because of her injured foot, Maddie has to visit the doctor on the ship. Nora helps her over to the room after telling their parents about the situation. They tell the doctor and their parents about the mermaid saving Maddie, but nobody believes their story. The doctor says, "Amy and Tom, I think your daughters just saw a fish." Amy looks over at the kids and says, "Good imagination, girls." The parents go to the waiting room to wait for the doctor to fit Maddie for a boot. Once Maddie's boot is fitted and on her foot, the girls and their parents leave the office and go to play with their brothers in the game room. The next day, everyone heads over to the beach. Maddie and Nora walk along the shore as the guys make a sand castle around their parents. Suddenly, Maddie and Nora see a flashing tail in the water. The tail disappears, but there is a slight shimmer as 3 figures appear to be swimming towards the shore. Millie the mermaid appears and is first to speak. "Hi, my name is Millie. These are my parents, Coral and Beau," she says. Millie comes up to shore, where Maddie is sitting in the sand by the water, and moves Maddie's foot. She takes off the boot and magically heals Maddie's ankle using her powers. Everybody on shore sees the mermaids, and Maddie's family rushes over. "Whoa," Amy exclaims. "We told you," Maddie says. Their parents appear on the shore. They can't believe their eyes. "We told you," Nora repeats. "Well, I'll be," says their dad. "That'll teach us never to doubt our kids," their mom says. The mermaid family dives into the waves and disappears. "My foot is all healed," Maddie says, surprised and relieved. The group stares into the ocean, searching for a fin or a tail, but they see nothing. It doesn't matter. From then on, they will always believe in mermaid magic. Special Camp Visitors by Beverly Douglas and Gray Kennedy. Livy and Jenna were at home packing up clothes, sunscreen, their favorite rainbow towels, their pink and white polka dot bathing suits, and everything else they needed for 2 whole awesome weeks at summer camp. Their parents stacked all the suitcases in the back of the van and said, "Time to go." The girls said, "One last thing," and they snuck back into the house and found a cardboard box with holes in it and a blanket. The box had been in the basement since they brought their puppies home from the pet store. They called for their Dachshund puppies, Bogey and Millie, and told them to climb into the box. The dogs tilted their heads, confused by the girls' commands. "Girls, hurry up!" The girls heard their mom call from the driveway. The girls hurriedly grabbed the puppies and put them in the box. "What did you get?" their mom asked as the girls walked toward the back of the van with the box in their hands. "I just got my markers and coloring books," said Livy. "Why'd you use the box with the holes in it?" her mother asked. "It was the first one I found," Livy stammered. The girls asked their mom to open up the back of the van, and they put the box into the back themselves to avoid suspicion. It was time to head off to camp. As they drove down the road to camp, they heard sounds of bumping, scratching, and a strange whining sound from the back of the car. "What is that noise?" asked Dad. "The bumping and the scratching is probably just the suitcases moving back and forth," Jenna said. "The squealing is just me being so excited about camp." Finally, they arrived at the old main camp cabin. Across the front of the old main cabin was a sign saying, "Camp Cheerio Seas." Jenna was so excited to get out of the van that when her dad opened the door, she fell out. "Silly Jenna," said Livy. They giggled as they ran to the back of the van. Their parents opened the back of the van, and their mom reached for the box before Livy interrupted. "Wait, we got the box." "Okay, if you say so." Her mother looked suspicious, but Jenna made a funny face that made her laugh and forget about it. The girls grabbed the box and hurried down the trail to find their cabin. As they entered the cabin, they found their counselors, Rosie and Daisy. "Welcome to Camp Cheerio Seas. What are your names?" the counselors asked the girls. "My name is Jenna, and my name is Livy," the girls answered. "Hey, what's in the box?" asked Rosie. "Oh, nothing, just some extra clothes," Livy said coolly. The counselors shrugged their shoulders, and the girls put the box with the squirming puppies under Livy's bed. Their parents arrived at the cabin with the rest of the luggage. Then the girls hugged their parents left, and finally they were at camp. After a long day of swimming, crafting, and mini-golf, the girls headed inside for rest time, with bagels stuffed in their pockets from lunch. At rest time, the counselors took a nap, and the girls fed the dogs the bagels and water. An hour later, they were off to new activities, but as they were leaving, Jenna forgot to close the box. The girls went to dinner, knowing the puppies were full as they ate and sang around the campfire. After heading back to the cabin, they checked on the puppies, but oh no, the puppies were gone. The girls searched everywhere for the puppies, under the bunk beds, by the lake, the dining hall, and even in the garden, but they were nowhere to be found. Now should we ask the counselors for help? Livy asked Jenna. Maybe wait a little longer. The puppies are sure to show up soon. Back in the cabin, the counselors were playing cards with a couple of campers. Rosie looked up as the girls entered the room. All good? She asked them. All good, they said together, laughing nervously. One of the counselors said, the fireworks are happening in about 10 minutes. Do you want to go with us? Sure. Can we set up our crazy creeks? Jenna asked, referring to their chairs. I don't see why not. So the girls grabbed their crazy creeks from under their beds, and the counselor urged them on. Let's go. We don't want to be late. All the girls in the cabin followed the counselors down the trail through the woods to the clearing at the top of the hill. As they approached, one of the campers said, Hey, what's that in the middle of the clearing? Looks like 2 dogs. Lily and Jenna ran into the clearing. It was their puppies. The counselors and the kids stopped moving and stared in surprise. Livy and Jenna explained to the counselors. We wanted to bring our puppies because we would miss them, said Jenna. But it backfired and they got lost, said Livy. Well, that wasn't a great idea, said the counselor. The girls continued to explain to the counselors, and when they arrived at the fireworks, they had 2 puppies in their hands. The next day, Livy's mom called Rosie, Livy's and Jenna's camp counselor, because both of the girls' puppies were missing from their home. Rosie gave the phone to Livy, and her mom exclaimed, Bogey and Millie are both missing. Livy apologized and confessed that she and Jenna snuck the puppies to camp because they knew they would miss them. She reassured her mom that the puppies were safe at camp now. Livy's mom said, Oh, I'm so relieved to know they are safe with you. I will call Jenna's mom and tell her that everything is okay. We'll see you tomorrow when we come to pick you up. The puppies had a lovely time now that they didn't have to stay hidden in the box. They jumped from bed to bed in the evening, enjoying all the campers' attention. And when it got late and people were starting to fall asleep, Bogey crawled into Livy's bed and Millie crawled into Jenna's bed, and all 4 of them snored until morning. In the end, Livy and Millie were glad they brought the puppies, but they wouldn't want to risk losing them again. J&J Detectives by Carson K. It was a sunny day in Flowerville. Brothers Jack and Joe were walking home from the park. Joe waved at their mom as they walked by her jewelry store. All of a sudden, they heard a car and saw it zoom down the road. Joe, what do you think is wrong? Asked Jack. I'm not sure, Jack, said Joe. Jack's stomach growled. Do you want a snack? Joe asked. Yes. Let's go to the coffee shop down the street. Okay. They walked through the door under a sign reading Carson's Coffee Shop. It was 5 p.m. The shop was closing. Let's go home, Jack, said Joe. That evening they ate pepperoni pizza and mac and cheese instead. After falling asleep on his pillow and dreaming about tacos, Joe woke up in the middle of the night. He heard his mom on the phone saying something about her store getting robbed. He also heard her say, Don't tell Joe and Jack. It was 7 in the morning when Joe woke up again and smelled bacon and eggs. Joe slowly got dressed. He ran down the stairs, grabbed a piece of bacon, and ran to Jack's room. He knocked on Jack's door. He told Jack what he had heard their mom say. Jack was amazed. They got on their bikes and rode to their mom's jewelry store. They tiptoed past the jewelry store and hid their bikes behind a tree. As they walked into the store, a big man came in behind them. A paper fell out of his pocket. Joe caught the paper before it hit the ground. It was a list. It said, 1. Rob Flowerville Jewelry Shop. 2. Hide in the park. This must be a very dumb robber, thought Joe. Let's keep an eye on him, said Jack. Jack and Joe hid behind their mom's jewelry case to spy. Jack and Joe watched the man enter and purchase flowers. As he walked by Jack and Joe, they saw a shiny thing in the vase. Let's go to the park, said Jack, and see if he goes there. The park was very dirty. The trash cans were full to the brink, and litter blew by. All of a sudden, there was a rustle in the bushes. Joe and Jack looked to see the big man walking out of the brush. "There's the guy from the jewelry store," said Jack. The man walked off without noticing them, hiding behind a big tree. They looked in the brush and found a small black bag. Inside the bag were diamonds. They ran to Carson's grocery store across the street and asked to use the phone. Joe called the cops and said, "We found the diamonds, and they're in the first bush at Corgi Park." The next day on the news, they heard the robber was arrested. The mystery was solved, but the hard part remained, telling their mom. Joe and Jack decided to tell their mom Wednesday after school. They were worried their mom would be mad because they took on a dangerous criminal. But when they told her, she was shocked, scared, and excited. They were heroes in the town. Their faces were on the front page of the newspaper. The cops had taken care of the robber. They had even told their mom, and the case was solved. Chloe and Midnight by Cecilia Hemp. "Happy birthday, Chloe," said Chloe's best friend Allie. "After presents, we'll find a free stall at the barn." "For what?" asked Chloe. "Oh, nothing," said Chloe's mom. "'Kay." Chloe opened the first present. "My present is new grooming tools," said Allie. "Thank you," Chloe said. "Open mine now," Chloe's mom said. "OMG, it's a foal," Chloe said. She was so excited it felt like her head was going to pop off. She peered in the giant box one more time to make sure she wasn't dreaming. When she looked in the box the second time, she saw the same cute little face of an all-black foal looking up and showing all her teeth to Chloe. "I'm going to name her Midnight," Chloe said. "I have to say, I was wondering what was in that big box," she giggled. "I had a feeling that would give it away," her mom said. The sun was shining on them then. "Let's have cake," Allie said. "After we find a stall in our barn," Chloe's mom said. There was only one stall left because all of Chloe's friends' horses were living there at the time. 1 year later. "Trot, Midnight," Chloe said calmly as they picked up a posting trot. "1 lap of trot, then canter time, Midnight," Chloe said. After 1 lap of the arena, Chloe went into 2-point, but this appeared to stress Midnight just a little too hard. Midnight stopped cold, sending Chloe somersaulting through the air and landing with a thump. Thankfully, Chloe was not hurt. "Ow," Chloe moaned as she stood up. Midnight stopped cantering and trotted over to Chloe. "Let's put you back in your stall," said Chloe, dusting herself off and grabbing Midnight's reins. The next day, Chloe tried again. This time she cantered just a little. Over time, Midnight learned to canter and was soon ready to jump. Then one day they did, and let me tell you how. Chloe asked Midnight to canter like usual, but this time, at the next corner, about 10 feet away, there was a jump. It was a cross rail, or 2 long poles that cross each other in the middle. Chloe said, "You got this, Midnight," and then she kicked lightly, and Midnight jumped over the jump. "Good job." Chloe was so happy and proud of Midnight. "Let's do it again," she said softly. This time, Midnight was not scared. She went over the jump like a well-trained horse. Then Chloe got off Midnight and led the horse back to the barn. The whole way to the barn, Chloe couldn't stop smiling. She took off Midnight's tack and put her in the same stall she had put her in the first time they met. There were pictures of them on the walls. The top of the box that Midnight was given to Chloe in was covered in stickers and memories, like their first show together. "I'm going to get you dinner, and then I'll let you rest," Chloe said softly to Midnight, so she wouldn't scare the other horses. After she gave Midnight her dinner, she went home to tell her mom what she'd done with Midnight that day. The barn was several blocks away from her house. Chloe walked to the bus stop to catch the bus to go home. The whole way home, she was so proud of Midnight. Chloe felt like Midnight was a part of her family, and she wanted to stay with her forever, just like the rider and horse in Chloe's favorite show when she was 5 years old. She remembered how much she wanted a horse just like the horse in the TV show, and now her dream had finally come true. The pollution of Beach Mountain. The crabs are throwing trash into the ocean, and not just trash, lots of trash. You see, the crabs have a lot of sand dollars, and people have a lot of trash. So the crabs start trading their sand dollars for trash. They go out at night and line the beach with sand dollars. People visit the beach the next day, drinking their canned drinks and eating their paper-wrapped food. They are so amazed when they come upon a perfectly formed sand dollar that they drop their trash. The crabs wait for this to happen, and then they scutter across the rocks and out of their holes in the sand, grab the trash, and take it out to the ocean. One night, Finn, the shark, is swimming around the ocean, and he notices something out of the corner of his eye. He turns to see tons of crabs on the beach, with one giant half-robot crab in the middle of them all. He spots sand dollars in each of the crab's pinchers. He sees them placing them down strategically and scurrying away, so he decides to wait to see what happens in the morning. When he wakes up, he discovers that the sand dollars are a ploy to collect trash and pollute the ocean. Mr. Ducky lives high on the mountain by a pristine lake where a large population of ducks dwell because of the large supply of fresh water. He loves to come down to the beach to scavenge for seaweed to take back to his family for a special dinner. One sunny day, Mr. Ducky waddled to the shore and suddenly saw a blue fin popping out of the water. The fin was attached to a gray and black striped tiger shark that emerged from the ocean onto the shore. That's how Finn and Mr. Ducky became friends. They'd been friends for 10 years and told each other everything. Finn goes up the mountain to tell Mr. Ducky that the crabs are collecting human trash and throwing it into the ocean. Mr. Ducky and Finn meet with the Crab King and demand that the crabs stop throwing trash in the ocean, but the Crab King only throws Mr. Ducky and Finn into jail. Their prison is like a giant crab cage. It seems impossible to get out. But Finn uses the sharp fin on his back to cut through the cage, and Mr. Ducky and Finn escape. They decide to collect all the sand dollars to prevent more trash from going into the ocean. Mr. Ducky gets the sand dollar safe that sits on the Crab King's throne, and Finn swims down to his coral reef house to get his dad. When he arrives, Finn asks his dad to help them in their fight for justice. His dad agrees, but before they can leave, his dad says, "Son, you must first eat your broccoli." After a bit of arguing that ends in no broccoli eating, they swim off to take on King Crab. Later that day, everyone meets up at the beach for an epic showdown. Finn's dad makes the first attack move by biting King Crab's leg. He moves so quickly that King Crab is caught off guard and unable to fight back. It's a quick, easy battle. Finn's dad bites the Crab King's leg and takes him away to a faraway land called Hawaii. At the end of the day, Mr. Ducky and Finn learn that the worker crabs were only doing what the king made them do. So once the king is gone, they stop collecting trash and throwing it in the ocean. Mr. Ducky and Finn quickly learn that they can talk to the crabs and get them to help clean up the ocean. They send out the army of crabs to go find and collect all the trash they can and bring it back to dispose of it properly. The pollution gets better, the water gets cleaner, and everyone lives happily ever after. But once a year, the crabs go out in the middle of the night and cover the beach with sand dollars, for old time's sake. The end. Until next time. Anything is Possible by Claire Foley. Hi, what's up? My name is Claire, and I am a hamster. We hamsters can't see that well, so all hamsters have a scent to tell who's who. My scent is donuts. I love donuts. I do gymnastics with all my hamster friends. Well, they're not really my friends, because Harry, sour scent, Bob, strawberry scent, John, cookie scent, and Sue, flower scent, make fun of me for not sticking my landings. I really want to compete in gymnastics, but if I don't stick my landing in the Shayna gymnastics meet held in North Carolina, then I can't win. And most importantly, I can't prove my so-called friends wrong. During practice, when I can't stick my landings, it makes my friends laugh at me, and I hate it. One time I landed on my butt, and they laughed at me. Another time I landed on my head, and it hurt a lot, but they still laughed at me. One time I was trying to do a double front, but I stubbed my toe while I was running into it, and I only did a forward roll. They laughed at that too, but no matter how much they laugh, I am determined to win the Shayna gymnastics competition. Oh, and have I mentioned, prove my quote-unquote friends wrong? Today is the big day. I put on my leotard and went to the Shayna gymnastics meet. It wasn't that far away, only about 5 minutes. When I got there, all of my friends were sitting in the stands. Oh no, I thought, why did they come to watch? Okay, Claire, you can do it. The first event is bars, and you're not the best at bars, but you will be today. All my friends are smirking as we salute the hamster judges. I kip cast handstand, pirouette, kip cast, handstand, jump to high bar. I'm doing awesome so far. All I need to do is stick the landing. Okay, here comes the dismount. I stick it. All of my friends are so surprised. 5 minutes later, the score shows up on the screen. I got a 10, which is the best score you can get. 2 hours later, I stick every single routine and get a 10 on every event. I win the Shayna gymnastics meet. After I win first place, all my friends run out of the building as fast as they can. I knew I could do it. The next day at practice, Harry, Bob, Sue, and John ask me to be their friends again, and I say no, I need real friends. Then another hamster walks up to me and says, "Hey, you did really well in the Shana gymnastics meet. I was wondering if you want to be my friend." And I say yes, but only if you always encourage me and never laugh at me. She agreed without a doubt. I am so grateful to have a real friend, and I promise to always encourage her as well. Lesson learned by Crosland Williams. Joe, Jack, and Libby were siblings. They were in the family room, all snuggled up together, watching Star Wars on the television and eating chicken and chips. The movie ended at 9:30 p.m., which was past their bedtimes. Their parents were already in their bedroom and yelled out to them, "Go to bed, it's past your bedtime." Afterwards, their mom and dad tucked them in, turned off the lights, and went to bed. That night, they heard a crack. It sounded like the back door creaking open. Joe got out of bed, walked in the hallway, and went down the stairs. He saw the door open, and then he saw a man run out of the house with a fistful of money. Joe knew that his parents' safe was in their bedroom in the closet in a big, taped-up cardboard box on the floor. This guy must have snuck into his parents' bedroom, and his parents slept right through it. How did he pull the tape off the cardboard box without waking them up? And how did he know the password to the safe? He probably looked at the piece of paper with the numbers on it. His parents never should have left that paper in the box. But it doesn't matter right now because the man is getting away with their life savings. Joe ran upstairs and woke up Lily and Jack. All of them ran downstairs at 12 midnight, then ran out the door and into the crunchy snow. They saw the man running in the distance. They ran back inside and down the steps to the basement, where they got on their motorcycles and drove them out the basement door, around to the front of the house, and up the street in the direction the man had been running. As they caught up with the man, they saw that he had a stocking on his face and a metal baseball bat strapped to his back. The man looked behind him before jumping in his car, which was parked on the curb. He drove super fast and slid into a pond. His car sank into the dirty water. He was very wet and cold. He jumped through the open window of the car and ran. The kids were still on their motorbikes. Jack ran into a big bunch of spiky thorns. Lily and Joe pulled Jack's motorcycle out and dusted Jack off. The thief was no longer in view, but they saw a wooden shed that was big enough to hold 10 people or more. Jack saw a little letter on the ground. As Lily opened it, they saw a pile of hay in the shed moving. Joe jumped in the dirty hay. The thief jumped out of the hay and hit Joe in the head with his bat. Joe felt the pain in his body and fell to the ground. As the thief ran away in the crunchy snow, he grabbed Jack's hand and beat him up. And then the thief kicked Lily in the shin. Jack tackled the thief, but the thief hit Jack with his metal bar on the belly. The thief was still on the ground when Joe jumped on him and tied him up with his little rope. Lily punched the guy with her fist. Then Jack called the police. At first the police did not believe him, but he held the phone to the man who was groaning on the ground. "Come get these kids off me," the man howled. The police came and arrested him. He was sentenced to jail for 50 years. Joe, Jack, and Lily drove home and told their parents the crazy story. At first their parents did not believe them, but when they showed them the box, they couldn't believe their eyes. They hadn't even realized they'd been robbed. Then the news story came on the television. Joe, Jack, and Lily were heroes. They each got a medal and a big trophy. Their life savings were safe once more, and their parents never left the passcode with the safe again. The Adventures of the Queen's Corgis by L. Reed and Anne Lucas Schwepp. "Mommy, Mommy," Susan, Honey, and Sugar, the Queen's Corgis, barked as they ran down the hallway. "We have discussed among the three of us that we should get our own room in the palace." Queen Elizabeth refused. She said, "You all share a room and get to sleep with me. I would be lonely if you all got your own rooms." "But, Mommy," all the Corgis pleaded, "we should get our own rooms." The Queen looked at them like, no means no, get it? When all the Corgis had moved back to their shared room, they said, "We are to search the whole palace until we find a room that we like. No, love." So they all started searching the palace all night. They searched in the library. "Why did we come here if we can't read?" asked Honey. They searched the study room. Susan said, "Too many books, and we already chewed up the desk. Whoops." They searched the wine room. "Too much human stuff," said Sugar. They searched and searched for what seemed like hours upon hours. Their legs got tired. They wanted to see their mommy. They waited in the butler, Edward's closet. It was full of cleaning supplies, so they decided to all lay down next to the dirty, jacked-up rags. Wag, wag, wag went their tails, but Queen Elizabeth did not come to find them. They missed their mommy, and their ears flopped down in sorrow. They let out a little yelp together. "We should have stayed with Mommy," Sugar said. The room smelled like the Mr. Clean peppermint scent that Edward used for the bathrooms. As the Queen laid in her bed that night, she wondered where could her little fluff balls be in this huge palace. She missed stroking her corgis' heads and the feelings of their legs thumping against her purple flower bed sheets. Meanwhile, the Queen's corgis quietly sat in the butler's closet. Their tails didn't swing anymore. They were sad. They all cuddled together until finally it was morning. They hoped someone would find them. Then they heard humming. Butler humming. To the tune of, "I'm cleaning in, cleaning in, cleaning, clean, cleaning, cleaning the Queen's palace, and I get paid by the minute." "It's Edward! It's Edward!" the corgis all barked. Edward turned off the vacuum cleaner. "Huh?" he said. It's us, they barked. "Oh, of course," said Edward, bowing to pat them on the heads. "What are you all doing in my closet away from the Queen?" Susan said, "We wanted our own room, so last night we all wandered around the palace to find one we all wanted. But we got tired and fell asleep in your closet." Edward was grabbing the duster and vacuum cleaner and said, "Well, I suppose if you want me to take you back to the Queen." "Yes," all the corgis barked back. Edward was their favorite butler. He had black, sleek hair, and he would always give them a treat when he cleaned the bedroom that they missed. "Hey, Edward," Honey said, "can you please take us back to our mommy?" "Yes," he said, shooting us a nice smile. "I would be glad to." Edward was not able to carry all three of us, so he snatched a basket out of his closet to carry us in. Poor Edward, he had to carry us all the way to the Queen's room, down 2 hallways, through the art room, away from the kitchen, past 2 of the chef's rooms, tiptoeing quietly past the maid's room, where the women were still sound asleep, until finally we got to the Queen's room. The corgis imagined the good and the bad. When the corgis thought of the bad, this came to mind. "You corgis get a spanking for scaring me like that," the Queen will say madly. When the corgis thought of the good, this came to mind. "Come here, sweet fluff balls. Do you want to cuddle and do you want some treats to munch on?" the Queen will say softly. The corgis got nervous and wondered what the Queen would say, good or bad. When the corgis arrived in the Queen's bedroom, the first thing she did was hug them. "Guys, I thought you had died. I was so very nervous about you," the Queen said. When the Queen ended her sentence, the corgis barked, "Mommy, we do not want our own rooms. We will be lonely. We don't want to be lonely." "Oh, wait," exclaimed the Queen. "I almost forgot. I have something for each of you." The Queen stepped out of the way, and the corgis all barked. "Wow, we love them. Our own, very own doghouses." A row of doghouses were placed beside her bed. The doghouses had purple velvet rugs and bones on the wallpaper and cozy blankets and LED lights all around the edges. Sugar got a royal purple outside. Honey got a tangerine orange outside, and Susan got a nice aqua blue outside, like her fluffy blanket the Queen gave her for her 2nd birthday. It was very special because Sugar and Honey didn't have fluffy blankets. "We are totally sleeping in here," barked the corgis happily. "Glad to have you back," the Queen said, pulling them close and wrapping her hands around them. "I love you, corgis. I love you very much." So Susan, Honey, and Sugar lived happily ever after. I'm Not the Only Pet in the House by Ellen Fuller. "Ringo, come meet your new friend," said Hallie, my owner, and then Hallie picked me up and stroked me from my pointy cat ears to my soft, smooth tail. And then right before my eyes, I saw a dog, a filthy dog. Then he went and ate my food. Then he said, "Hi, I'm Bailey. What's your name? Did you know that you have delicious food?" "My name is Ringo Taylor Samuel III, and this is my house, not yours. So don't get used to being here, Bailey," I said. I headed upstairs to chill on Hallie's bed, but Bailey followed me. So I went to the living room, but Bailey kept following me. "Do you want to play?" Bailey said shyly. Sure," I said. "Let's play hide and seek." You hide, and I'll count. Get it?" Bailey nodded. "Okay, go hide, pork chop," I said. Then he ran off, and I decided to take a nap on the couch. In what seemed like 2 minutes, Bailey woke me up. "I thought you were supposed to come find me," Bailey said. "Well, I am brainstorming on where you might be. Go hide again," I said. Then I decided to go see my cat friend, Sissy, next door. So I went outside and climbed over the rusty fence. When I finally got over the fence and into Sissy's house, I explained my situation, and she said, "Ringo, look, I feel very bad for you." Then she got a mischievous smile on her face. "But you know most puppies aren't potty trained." "Sissy, you're brilliant," I said. "Why, thank you," said Sissy in a professional voice. When I got back home, Bailey was lying flat on the carpet. He got up and burst out angrily. "Where were you? I thought you were supposed to come find me. It's been 35 minutes. "Well, sorry," I said, annoyed already. Then he just left. I had my opportunity and peed on the carpet. That evening I was napping, and Haley came right into the room where I peed. "Oh, no," she said. "This rug was so expensive." She looked at me and then at Bailey, and then she said, "Bailey, look what you did. I can't believe this." And she shoved Bailey outside. The next day, when Hallie was at work, Bailey figured out that the fridge had bacon and chicken in it. While he was trying to get the food out, I peed again, this time on the dining room table. When Hallie came home, she put cameras up in the corners of the room, only I didn't know what they were at the time. Then she said, "Bailey, if you pee again..." "Wait, did you pee on the dining room table?" And then she shoved Bailey outside again. The next day, I peed on the couch, hoping that when Hallie came home, she would have to get rid of Bailey. But that night, she looked at the little camera thingy, and then she said, "Ringo, it's been you all this time?" The next day, Hallie put me in a crate and left me there all day. Suddenly, I felt guilty and ashamed. I never should have listened to Sissy. Then Bailey came up to me and said, "I forgive you." You do? After all the mean stuff I did?" "Yeah. Thanks." "Hallie will forgive you, don't worry," Bailey said. Bailey stayed with me the rest of the day, and that night I let him sleep on Hallie's bed with me, and I realized something. Bailey was actually really nice, and I shouldn't have been so mean to him. From now on, I would be nice to him, and I'll never listen to Sissy again. Kim by Amelia H. Kim was a lonely person and wanted a friend. It was just her and her mom. They lived in a little wooden house, and they didn't have much. They were sort of poor, but tried to make the best of what they had. Her mom would barely let her go outside. Kim could go in the backyard, but not past the fence. Her mom felt like the outdoors were very dangerous, which didn't give Kim much of a playground. One day after dinner, Kim was in the backyard for a long, long time, watching kids play in the yard next door. She knew her mother would never let her venture to their yard. This made her feel lonely. But then, something bit her. She screamed, and then something jumped over the fence and ate the bug. That thing was a fox. Mom heard the screaming and saw Kim and the fox and ran outside to help. Kim stood holding her arm, watching her mom threaten the fox by jutting her broom at it forcefully. "Get out of here, fox," she yelled. The fox's gentle eyes surprised Kim, but her mom didn't notice, and the fox quickly ran away, looking back at Kim one last time before disappearing into the woods. Though Kim felt bad for the fox, she went inside with Mom. Mom angrily asked, "Why did you let that fox bite you?" Then Kim started to talk. "Mom, it was not..." "I've warned you about being outside, Kim. I've had enough," said Mom. "Go to sleep." "Okay," said Kim, frustrated and mad that her mom wouldn't listen. She got under the covers, noticing that her arm was stinging. She asked her mom for some ice. Her mom went back to the kitchen, filled a bag with ice, and returned. She knew her mom was still angry because she didn't speak, just handed her the bag. Then Mom turned off the lights. Kim woke up in the middle of the night and went to the kitchen to make a snack. Blueberries and goldfish. Then Kim snuck outside, searching for the fox from the evening before. Kim sat and sat, listening to the quiet. Then she sat and sat some more, waiting for the fox. She had no luck that night. Kim went back to bed. The next day she ate breakfast and had homeschool. Kim sighed. It was Monday, the day Mom gave Kim a test. After her test, she needed a break. Kim's mom gave Kim some animal spray to keep her safe, and she went in the backyard. She saw a fluffy tail. The fox! It came back! It peeked around the corner from behind a bush. It was covered in leaves. Kim went back inside and grabbed a little bit of food, keeping it secret from her mom. She snuck back outside with the food and gave it to the fox to lure it out from the bush. The fox ate the food, and as it ate the food, Kim plucked the leaves out of its fur. When the fox was not looking, Kim got the animal spray and threw it over the fence. "Bye, animal spray," she said in her head. But when she looked back, the fox was gone. Kim thought, "I left the door open when I was coming outside. Oh no, the fox must have gone inside. If Mom figures out, she will blame it on me and kill me. Well, not kill me. She will ground me, so I have to find the fox." "Honey, I'm going to the store. Want to come?" asked Kim's mom. "No, thanks," Kim said. "Okay, bye," said Mom. Now, Kim thought, "I have to find that fox. This should be easy. My house is not so big." Tap, tap, Kim heard. That must be the fox walking. Kim went to the kitchen where the tapping was coming from. She saw the fuzzy tip of the fox's tail under the kitchen table. "Yes, the fox is in here. Yes, I hope the fox didn't destroy the kitchen." As Kim looked around, she saw food everywhere. There was apple juice spilled all over the counter, the jam jar was broken, Cheerios all over the floor, and milk was spilled on the table. The next thing Kim saw was the fox poke out his little nose from under the table. He came out and started eating up most of the mess he'd made. Kim helped clean up the milk and broken glass from the jam jar. Finally, the kitchen was clean. Kim and the fox were exhausted. Kim was ready for bed. She grabbed one of the Cheerios they had missed that was still on the ground, and she lured the fox to her room. Right as the fox got into her room, it jumped up onto her bed and fell fast asleep. Kim decided to sleep too. She carefully and quietly crawled up onto her bed so she didn't wake the fox. She fell asleep thinking, "I am so happy to have a friend." Mom came home and shouted, "Honey, honey." Then she went up to Kim's room and saw the fox and Kim asleep, snuggled up together in the bed. Maybe this is fine after all, she thought. Kim really does need a friend. Tales of a Lost Dog by Emmeline Ohl. Lily looked at the clock. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The bell would ring any minute. Ring, ring. The bell rang. "Class dismissed," Mrs. Ohl told the class. "Bye, Mrs. Ohl," Lily said as she ran out of the classroom. Lily got on the bus. She saw all the other kids laughing and talking to each other, but she didn't have any friends. She fought back tears. Then she saw Maya. Maya was a quiet girl, but Lily had only talked to her a few times. Maya sat down next to her. "Hi," Maya exclaimed. "Oh, hi," Lily responded. The bus ride was quiet, but she heard Sarah and Emmeline, who were in the same class as her, telling jokes. Lily turned her head to look at the window. Suddenly the bus rumbled to a stop. The bus had arrived at Lily's house. "Bye," Lily yelled as she hopped off the bus. She ran up to her front porch. "Hi, Mom," she said to her mom as she went into her house. "I'm going outside." "Okay," her mom answered. Lily ran out the door. She hula-hooped for a while, and then she went back inside. She couldn't find Spot, her dog, anywhere. "Where'd Spot go?" Lily asked her mom with concern. "I don't know," her mom answered. "Oh, no, I must have left the door open," Lily cried. "Don't worry," Lily's mom said. "Let's just go to bed. I'm sure he'll be here in the morning." Lily tossed and turned all night. As she was getting out of bed the next morning, the doorbell rang. "Can you answer the door?" Lily's mom yelled from the kitchen. "Sure," Lily said. She opened the door, and it was Maya. "Hi, Maya," Lily said, her mouth a flat line. Maya knew something was wrong. "Why did you come?" Lily asked. "I wanted to help you find your dog." "Oh," Lily said. "How do you know I lost my dog?" "I just knew something was wrong," Maya said. "Then I looked in the school directory and realized I can walk to your house." Lily nodded. She was sad but relieved to have a friend. "Well, I last saw him in the living room," she said. "Okay, I'll look outside and you look inside the house," Maya directed. Okay, Lily agreed. As soon as Maya walked outside, Spot came running toward her. A smile spread across her face. Lily, come quick, Maya yelled. Lily came running outside. It's Spot, she exclaimed. You found him. Thank you, Maya. Lily smiled and hugged Spot. Not only did she find her dog, but she made a friend. Maya and Lily would be best friends forever. Cats by Emery Craver. Every person thinks cats are cute because they're soft and furry like a dog, and everyone likes dogs. But I think differently. Once I was having a sleepover at my friend Emery's house, and her cat bit me. I was just laying on the couch, my hand hanging off the edge. Then suddenly the cat walked up and bit me for no reason. That's why I do not like cats. My friend Emery called me and said, Hey, Charlotte, do you want to hang out at my house? Yes, I said. I will ask my mom. I ran to the garden where my mom was watering plants. When I got to the garden, I saw my mom watering some yellow squash. Mom, I said. My mom turned to me quickly. Yes, she replied. Mom, I called back. Can I go to Emery's house? Yes, my mother said. Will you be riding on your bike? Yes, Mom, I said. We went inside my house together. It was really cold inside. I shivered. I went to the garage and I put my helmet on. I was about to take off on my bike when my mom called out from the garden gate. Watch for cars, she yelled. Okay, I yelled back. My mom always worries about stuff like that. When I am 20 years old, my mom will be asking me to wear a helmet, even when I am in my car. I started to pedal down the street. Emery doesn't live far from my house. Her house is just a few blocks away. I passed Allison's house on the way. She's a girl from my class who thinks she is perfect at everything. Her family was having a barbecue. I could smell her dad cooking pork chops as I passed. Thinking about pork chops was making my mouth water. As I pedaled up Emery's driveway, I heard a scratching noise coming from her front door. When I looked at the windows by the door, little black ears popped into existence. It was Emery's cat, but she looked different. I guess I didn't remember her. Did I? I hesitated before turning the knob. Then, just like that, the cat pushed the door open and started charging at me. I started to run for my life, but the cat was way too fast. The cat was an inch away from scratching up my leg when it looked up at my face, stopped in midair, backed away really slowly, and started to run back into the house. Anyone home? I yelled from the living room. Yes, I'm in the kitchen, Emery's mom yelled. Are you hungry? I'm about to call Emery in for lunch. While Emery's mom called Emery in, I looked back into the living room where I saw the cat licking her paw. I saw a really bad cut on her paw. Your cat is hurt, I told Emery while she was sitting in the kitchen eating a peanut butter sandwich. She went straight to the living room and said, We need to take her to the vet. We? I said. You know how I do not like cats. You think I'm going in a car with this crazy cat? Come on, girls, Emery's mom said. I was convinced to go with them anyway. Emery's mom had a pretty nice-looking car, so we were on our way. After the veterinarian visit, we realized the cat was cut pretty badly by a cat from next door. It took weeks to heal. I was worried, and I felt bad for the cat because it seemed painful. I would visit Emery's house and ask where the cat was. Every time she would hiss at me, but time after time she would see me and eventually stop hissing. Though I still do not like cats, this cat is all right. Never Give Up by Hank Hurley and Xavier Geisel. Carlos has been a pilot for 5 years. Today he is flying medicinal plants collected in the jungle to a research facility in Miami. Someone mans the central station 24 hours a day, tracking Carlos's plane and the rest of the organization's moving vehicles. One day, Stephen and Jeff, jungle rangers and friends of Carlos, are manning the station together, when Carlos's signal begins moving very quickly and then jolts to a stop and stays there. Carlos, Stephen says. He must have crashed. Jeff and Stephen jump into a Jeep and drive down the rutted dirt road and under the edge of the tree line. Once in the green shade of the jungle plants, they travel an hour and are just about to change directions when they see a patch of white in the vines in front of them. They quickly discover that it is the wing of Carlos's plane. They continue along the road, moving even faster now. Suddenly, they both lurch forward as the Jeep smacks to a stop. They are stuck in a wall of vines that is formed across the middle of the road. Jeff slams on the gas, but the tires only spin in the dirt. It would take hours to cut the vines, so they decide to unload the motorcycles from the back of the Jeep and take them off-road. But it is only 5 or 10 minutes later that the road ends at a river. The river is too deep for the motorcycles, so they have to wade across it on foot. Again, they wonder if they are going in the right direction. Jeff sees a bald spot in the patch of green on the other side of the river. He pulls a pair of mini binoculars from his back pocket and looks through them. There, in the middle of the bald patch, is the body of Carlos's plane. With all their might, they wade across the river, slipping on the algae-covered rocks underneath them. When they reach the other side, they run clumsily up the river's edge into the plane's dented body. There, in the cockpit, is Carlos. The lower half of his body is stuck under the dashboard, which has been crushed downward. From the looks of it, Carlos's leg has been crushed downward too. Carlos is weak when they find him, but he's still alive, and he's conscious. "Oh, thank you," Carlos says through quivering lips. "I can't feel my leg." Jeff looks at Carlos's leg. It's not just broken, it's crushed. It's a good thing Carlos can't feel it. "I think you better stay put until we can get you out of here," Jeff says. They explain to Carlos that they have to ride back to the Jeep and cut it out of the vines, which could take a couple hours, so that they can come back, get Carlos free, and drive him across the river. "Cutting the vines is a two-man job," yells Stephen. Jeff and Stephen wade back across the mushy river and start running back to the Jeep. When they reach the Jeep, they pull 2 machetes out of their backpacks and start cutting the vines. Each vine is as thick as a coconut, making it hard to cut through. They finally cut one vine and then move on to the next. Even working as fast as they can, it still takes Stephen and Jeff an hour to get the Jeep out. The Jungle Rangers jump in their Jeep, drive straight through the squishy river and all the way back to the crash site. Because the Jeep is taller than the motorcycles, they can drive right through. They reach into the back of the Jeep, grabbing the jaws of life. The jaws of life are like a giant claw that can break the dashboard apart and set Carlos free. Stephen rips the dashboard completely out of the plane. Jeff and Stephen scoop Carlos up and carry him like a baby back to the Jeep. They carefully lay Carlos in the back seat of the Jeep and start driving. Driving back to the ranger station takes 2 hours this time because the river slows them down. It is raining now, making the river higher and harder to cross. They try to drive quickly, but they have to slow down over the big bumps in the road so they don't hurt Carlos. When they finally get back to the ranger station, they put Carlos in the medical room. The room is all white and smells like roses. Once they have moved Carlos onto the bed, Stephen goes to get the nurse. They are still in a room of the ranger station, not a full-fledged hospital. That is why there's only one nurse, and they can walk right in. The nurse is named Bob. He looks about 29 years old, and he is wearing light blue scrubs. Bob runs into the room and grabs some sponges to start cleaning the blood off of Carlos's leg. Jeff and Stephen wait in the nice lavender-smelling waiting room and watch the fish tank while they wait. Bob, the nurse, comes walking into the waiting room. He turns to Jeff and Stephen and says that Carlos is fine, but will need to stay for at least a week. He is alive, but his leg is badly broken. We are putting him in a cast. After finding out that he is okay, Jeff and Stephen set back out on their Jeep and return to the crash site. They are on a mission to retrieve the precious cargo, the medicinal plants. They are trying to take as many plants as they can. 5 are piled on top of the Jeep and tied on with twine like Christmas trees. 20 smaller plants are carefully put into the trunk of the Jeep. Stephen sits down in the passenger seat while Jeff piles 10 plants on top of him. Stephen is happy to be planted among the plants. Jeff runs around to the other side of the Jeep and hops in. He drives as fast as he can to the airport. These medicinal plants still need to make it all the way to Miami. They drive the Jeep right up the runway, straight to the cargo plane. Stephen opens the door and the plants spill out. He hops out and puts them back into the Jeep before walking over to the plane. He opens up the plane with his keys and lowers a big ramp down to the tarmac. Jeff drives the Jeep straight up the ramp and into the cargo plane. Jeff puts the Jeep in park and races back down the ramp, telling Stephen to shut the door. Stephen raises the ramp and shuts the cargo bay as Jeff runs into the cockpit. Stephen, who is the pilot, launches them into the air. Jeff, the co-pilot, says, "Step on it." They arrive safely in Miami, although they do have to park the plane on the runway for a while at first. After moving the plane and putting it in park, Jeff runs around back and says, "Stephen, open the back." The back of the plane opens up. "No," yells Jeff. "What?" says Stephen. "The plants all died," says Jeff. "It was probably the air pressure," says Stephen. "Well, we can't do anything about that." Suddenly, Jeff's phone rings. He picks up the phone, and it is someone from the ranger station calling. "You guys need to come back now. We have another mission for you." Jeff and Stephen jump back in the plane and fly back home. The end. Dun, dun, dun! The Good Life by Harold W. David, an orphan at Adoption Happy Orphanage, was doing his homework at his desk when Mr. Gaskin walked in. "Mr. Gaskin, why does nobody want me?" David looked up with sad eyes. "Is it because I'm too old?" David knew most adults wanted to adopt babies or little children, and he was already 12. It's usually like they couldn't even see him. Don't say that, David," said Mr. Gaskin, who was leaning against the right side of the door. "Tomorrow is adoption day. Someone will get you. I know it." David looked into Mr. Gaskin's blue eyes, then to the top of his head, where his short hair seemed to be standing straight up. Sometimes Mr. Gaskins had this weird stare, like when David got mad and ripped up his homework because he thought it was too hard. But Mr. Gaskin was staring at David kindly now. The next day, David was happier because his favorite team, the Spurs, were playing, and he was watching it on television. The score was 58-62. The Spurs were winning at halftime. By the fourth quarter, the Spurs had 104 points, and the Hawks had 106 points. There were only 2 seconds left when George Meakin, David's favorite player on the Spurs, brought the ball down and made a buzzer-beater three-pointer to win the game. David didn't know it, but Mr. Gaskin had been talking to the Meakins. They had announced they were going to adopt a child, and Mr. Gaskin had called them right away. They were coming today to adopt David. David couldn't believe his eyes when he saw his basketball hero walk into the room. "You're a famous basketball player, aren't you, George Meakin?" Mr. Gaskin, who was a Hawks fan, asked. He looked at David with excitement. Mr. Gaskin and David had gotten into a fun argument after the Spurs-Hawks game. They liked to pick on each other this way. Mr. Gaskin knew who George Meakin was. "That's me," said George. "Would you like to go home with the Meakin family, David? It'd be good to get rid of another Spurs fan." David was ecstatic, but he was a little sad to leave Mr. Gaskin. "You can come back and visit any time," Mr. Gaskin said, reading David's eyes. So David got adopted by the Meakin family. His new mom's name was Patricia. For dinner that night, George took Mom and me to an expensive Japanese steakhouse. The Japanese steakhouse had a rectangular table with a metal surface in the middle, and what was really cool was when the chef flipped shrimp into his hat and then flipped them right back on the table. He also made a volcano with onions. George did not eat that much because he had a game tomorrow and needed to stay in shape. The next day was marvelous. Mom and I went to an NBA game and sat on the court. We got a special parking place in a secret garage. The stadium was so big, way bigger than the orphanage. We watched the game, and it was great. The Spurs were playing the Celtics, and the Celtics were winning 56-49 with 2 minutes left in the first half. It was pretty exciting. At halftime, the score was 59-54. The Celtics were still winning. By halftime, I was hungry and went into a special room and got steak for dinner. The special room was pretty close to the Spurs locker room and very complicated to get to. What you had to do was go through the tunnel where the players go in, past the Celtics locker room, past security, and into the special room. The steak Mom and I got was on a plate in a buffet. The cupcakes were on a separate buffet because there was a dessert buffet and a dinner buffet. I got a scoop of mashed potatoes and I got a cherry Coke to drink. It tasted amazing. Then I heard the cheerleaders start to chant, "Let's go Spurs." So I tugged on my mom's arm and told her the second half was about to start. We watched the second half, and the Spurs won. The final score was 106-104. After the game, a kid that was 10 years old asked for my dad's autograph. Another time, Mom and I went to a theme park. After one ride, Mom had to go to the bathroom. While she went, I actually had to go too, but Mom did not know that. She came out of the girls' bathroom first, and when she didn't see me, she started looking for me. After I came out of the boys' bathroom, I didn't see her, so I started looking for her too. Problem is, we went in different directions. There were two sides to the theme park. After I searched one whole side, I heard my mom calling my name. I went toward the sound of her voice. It felt like years of searching, and then I saw her. I ran up and hugged her. She looked down and hugged me back. "I'm so glad I spotted you," she said. "I love you, Mom," I said. After we found each other, we got lunch and left. Dad was not there because he had practice. The rest of the next 10 years, I watched NBA games with my mom. Dream Mystery by Hayes Wofford. As the stars came out over the lush gold field, Bill started to cry. His sword of magic was in the castle where he left it. 2 weeks before, the landlord had come and said, 2 more weeks. Now those words made Bill cry. 2 weeks, 14 days. 2 weeks, 14 days. "Ah!" Bill yelled. It was his last night in that room, in the castle. Bill's family would be moving the next morning because his dad was starting a new job as a museum night watchman in a town far away. The next morning, Bill grabbed 5 cookies. He had 1 hour until the big green moving van left. In that hour, he had a mission. Bill wanted to get his sword and play by the tree for the last time before he left his beloved house. Little did he know there would be lots of magic. He opened the mesh door and ran into the meadow. Then, just as he was about to fall from running so fast, he saw the tree, the castle, at the edge of the meadow. Beside it was his sword, which looked just like any ordinary stick to most people. He stepped toward the stick and kicked it up to his hand. It had been possessed with a force years ago. If it's taken out of Bill's backyard, it will ruin everything. But nobody knows this. Then Bill saw it. A squirrel dragon. "Oh no, it wants my sword," Bill thought. The squirrel dragon got closer. It had patches of dark fur all over it and glowing red eyes. The squirrel dragon stood 2 feet tall and had a large, spiky tail. Although Bill was immediately scared, he planned to take action. As he was sharpening his sword on a rock, he saw a little black backpack strapped on the dragon's back with a white paper poking out. He dropped the sword on the ground and, jumping on the back of the squirrel dragon, grabbed the paper. It read, "Leave the sword. If the sword is not left in the yard, the powers of the sword will suck you in, and the only way to free yourself is to grant one wish to whoever picks up the sword first." "I won't leave the sword," Bill thought. Then he heard honking, and Bob the driver say, "Toot, toot." In one flying leap, the squirrel dragon was gone. Bill looked back at his driveway. The moving van was still there. Bill panicked, and forgetting about the note, started running, the sword tightly gripped in his hand. Once he left the boundaries of his backyard, everything went black. Bill woke up feeling strangely stiff and light. His body was smaller than he remembered. Suddenly, he felt somebody pick him up. Then he realized he was in the hands of a boy wearing blue jeans and a red shirt. "I must have become the stick," thought Bill. The memory of the note came flooding back, and Bill realized that the magic curse had turned him into a stick. Bill tried to talk. "Make a wish," he shouted at the boy, but nobody could hear him. "Oh no," thought Bill. "If this boy doesn't make a wish, I will be trapped in this stick forever." Surprisingly, and to Bill's good luck, the boy suddenly said, "I hate moving. I don't like this new house, and I miss my old one. I miss my friends, my school, everything from before." Bill realized this little boy was moving into his old house. "It sure would make this place better if my new room had lots of toys. I sure wish I had some fun new things to play with." As soon as the words were out of the boy's mouth, Bill felt himself fading away, and everything went black again. When he woke, he was in the back seat of his van. "How did I get into the van?" thought Bill. When the little boy made that wish, I was in the woods behind the house. Had it all been a dream? Was the sword really magic? Bill looked down to see if he might still have the sword, but it was nowhere to be found. All he could see was a small piece of bark left on his sweater, the last memory he would have of his old house and the magical sword. Bart and the Giant Spider by Hendricks, Westmoreland, and Hank Hooker. Bartholomew, Bart for short, was throwing his boomerang in a field near his house in Australia. It was a really windy day, so Bart was having a hard time getting his boomerang to come back. On the last throw, the wind swept under the boomerang and took it away. Bart ran after it, all the way to the warehouse at the edge of the field. Bart looked around. He didn't see a boomerang anywhere. It must be in the warehouse, Bart thought. I have to get inside. He peered through one of the dusty windows. It looked spooky inside. Dirty. Dark. Nobody was inside. There were roots and vines growing all over the outside and even under the doors and windows. Bart pulled the vines away from a broken window and crawled inside. There, in the middle of the room, was his boomerang. It must have been what broke the window. Beside the boomerang was a spider with its fangs raised. Not only was the spider angry, it was giant. It looked like Bart's boomerang flew through the broken window and hit the spider as it was sleeping in its thick, cozy web in the corner, and the spider ran out to defend itself. Bart ran away from the spider and up a set of wooden stairs at the back of the room. But it was dark inside the warehouse, and Bart couldn't see where to go. He went into a room at the top of the stairs and closed the door. There was no way to lock it. Bart could feel his heart beating with panic as he worried about how he was going to get out of this mess. He could hear the spider creeping slowly up the stairs, and Bart frantically searched for an escape. As the spider started opening the door, Bart saw a window that had been painted black. He looked closer at the window and saw that it was a single-pane glass and old. He kicked through the glass and jumped out of the window just as the spider broke down the door. Bart thought his right ankle was sprained, but other than that, he did not think he was hurt from the fall. He ran around to the back of the warehouse and found an old, abandoned truck. Bart was surprised to find keys left on the seat. He jumped inside, and as he turned the key, his hand was shaking. He worried that the rusted car wouldn't start and the spider would find him before he was able to escape. Luckily, the truck started right up, and he raced off as fast as he could, leaving the boomerang behind and his heart racing. Bart drove straight to the FBI office and reported the giant spider sighting. Once he was inside the office, he could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Sadly, the spider was left with just the boomerang to eat. The spider was mad and sat planning how it would find Bart and eat him for breakfast. The FBI arrived at the warehouse and busted inside. The spider was cowering in the corner, scared for its life. One of the FBI officers shot a sleeping dart into the spider, and the spider collapsed. It took 10 guys to move the spider into the cage waiting outside the warehouse. They took the spider to the biology lab at the nearby university, where a professor studied it for research. They discovered that the spider's venom was very dangerous. They wanted to study it, but it did not want to stay. It tried many times to escape, but was unable. All the spider wanted was to get back to the old warehouse. One day, while the professor was delivering the spider's lunch, he got a phone call from the FBI with another giant spider sighting. He was distracted and forgot to lock the door to the spider's cage back. That night, the giant escaped the lab and returned back home to his warehouse, where he lived happily to this day. Cookie by Isla Reader. I have a present for you, darling, said William. Okay, I'm coming, said Petunia. Wait, said William. Close your eyes. He paused. Okay. Petunia gasped. It's a corgi. She was so surprised. Petunia and the corgi cuddled in the family room. They cuddled in the bedroom. They cuddled in the kitchen. They cuddled everywhere. Come here, Cookie, said Petunia. I have something to tell you. Petunia is getting a little round, thought Cookie. She has been eating a lot lately. Maybe she should lay off the burgers. There are a lot of people here, thought Cookie. I wonder why. I mean, there are a lot of pink balloons. Maybe... Wow, hey, they put me outside, barked Cookie. It's not walk time, is it? Because I really don't think that it is. Cookie was really mad. He was barking and yelping. Please let me in, barked Cookie. I've been out here for about 2 hours. Just let me in. Cookie went to the window and looked in. And when she looked in, she saw something she'd never seen before, at least in her house. It was a crib. Petunia's having a baby, Cookie barked excitedly. Cookie was happy for Petunia until the baby came. It's like Cookie wasn't even there anymore. Cookie went over to talk to her dog friends. They don't care about me anymore. All they care about now is the baby. Love. Cookie was so jealous. What type of name is that? Love. It's a terrible name, whined Cookie. A few weeks later, Cookie got a crazy idea to run away. And she did it. She ran so far, and she got lonely. She missed her family, and she was so tired. I miss my mom and dad, whimpered Cookie. I'm going to go home. But when she tried to find her way home, she was lost. She looked all around, but could not find her way home. The next night, while Cookie was eating some cereal out of a dumpster, she heard and saw a car that looked a lot like her family's car. She looked again. It was her family. She chased the car down, and it stopped. They ran out of the car and scooped Cookie up and said, "Oh, we are so sorry for not spending time with you." They were relieved and gave her a big hug. A few weeks later, Cookie became friends with the baby, and everything went back to normal, except there was a baby now. 2 Little Pigeons by James Dorfler. Pigeon Master. Fred, make me a pancake. Fred. Okay, Isaac. Pigeon Master. Call me Pigeon Master. Clang, sizzle, sizzle, ding. 1 hour later. Pigeon Master. Zzz. Fred. Wakey, wakey. Pigeon Master. What took you so long? Forget that. Now let me eat. Pluck, pluck, pluck. Pigeon Master. Okay, step away, little pigeon Fred. Now let me get my beauty sleep. Creak, creak, bang, bang. Pigeon Master. Keep it down. Later. Clang, bang, bang, clang. Pigeon Master. Fred. Pigeon Master. Now let's go to your nest and play pigeon snap. 10 minutes later. Pigeon Master. Snap! I won! I really... You're a were-pigeon! Fred, the were-pigeon. Pigeon Master. Ah, Fred! Pigeon Master. You shrunk! Pigeon Master. Now you are the same size as me. Fred, were-pigeon. Pigeon Master. Wait, what is happening? Now you are bigger than me. No, don't pick me up and simply don't try to eat me. Pluck, pluck, gulp. The end. Translation. Isaac, who wants to be known as Pigeon Master, has a pigeon named Fred who works for him. Fred serves the Pigeon Master, bringing him food, fixing his house, building things. But the Pigeon Master is not very smart. And one day, Fred turns into a were-pigeon, like a werewolf, only a pigeon, and eats the Pigeon Master. Lesson: don't underestimate a pigeon. Escaping the Monster by Jim G. Bob Post was running from a really scary monster. It had 42 eyes, 10 mouths, 32 arms, 26 legs, and 50 ears. Bob Post, on the other hand, was an Olympian. He had won 45 gold medals, 36 silver medals, and 27 bronze medals. Here's how the story began. It was a normal day in Raleigh. Bob Post woke up at exactly 1:00 a.m. He went downstairs to fix himself some breakfast, and he got himself some milk and cereal. At 9:30, he went to his NBA basketball game. But when he arrived at the stadium, he suddenly found a hungry monster on the court. Bob Post ran out of the stadium as fast as he could go. The monster followed him, determined to catch him. Bob Post ran to the door. Then he quickly bought a ticket and got on board a ship that set sail. Bob waved goodbye to the monster. Then he sat down in a pool chair. He thought the monster was gone, but then he suddenly heard a splashing sound and looked over the edge of the boat and saw the monster swimming beside the boat. Bob panicked. He ran to the captain and told him to go full steam ahead because a monster was swimming beside the boat. The captain went really fast, and soon they reached the end of the journey. Bob Post ran down the gangplank and got in a car and zoomed down the road. The monster still chased after him, determined to catch him. Suddenly, Bob told the driver to pull over. Bob got out of the car, threw the monster a sleeping pill, and the monster ate it. The monster started to feel sleepy and laid down and fell asleep for 100 years. Bob returned home and played in his basketball game and won and lived happily ever after. The end. Ace by Kai P. Ace was a newborn duckling who lived with his brothers and his mom and his sisters by a long river next to a forest. "We're going on a trip," his mom said. Then they left their nest and waddled through the tall grass. Dragonflies lifted into the air as the duck family made their way down to the river. Then they waddled into the water and swam toward the center, where the current carried them past miles of long grass and sandy shores. As the sky turned dark and cloudy, Ace realized that they were far away from their home and that they were about to be in the middle of a storm. The waves got larger and larger, and Ace couldn't swim against them. Before he knew it, he could no longer see his family. Ace was lost. "Oh no," Ace said to himself, "will I ever see my family again?" Just then, he heard a deep voice threaten, "No, you won't." Ace was shocked and terrified because the water was deep and he couldn't see who had spoken. He turned around slowly, and then he saw it, a giant green reptile with rows and rows of teeth. "An alligator!" Ace yelled. He started kicking his paddles as fast as he could toward land. The alligator squiggled through the water toward him. Ace made it to land, but he was not safe. He kept running, but he didn't know how to fly yet. He ran through lots of trees into a very dark forest and kept on running until he finally found a tree with a big hole. He ran inside the hole, hiding from the alligator. The alligator's mouth wouldn't fit in the hole, so Ace caught his breath. Then the alligator started biting the tree. Ace worried the tree would fall down. He didn't know what to do when a friendly crocodile surprised the alligator by snapping his neck with his jaws. The alligator wiggled free, and Ace watched as it ran toward the crocodile. Like cowboys, the two reptiles started running toward each other to get the advantage of the fight. The crocodile snapped the alligator's face, injuring him so badly that he ran away scared. Just then, the crocodile noticed Ace. Ace was terrified and tired. "Hello there, little duckling," the crocodile said. Ace said, "Are you going to attack me?" His voice quivered. The crocodile didn't answer and slowly crept toward him. Ace's heart beat faster with each step the crocodile took closer. With his head peeking in the hole, the crocodile said, "Jump on my head." Ace smiled and waddled to the top of the crocodile's rough head. Then the crocodile turned and started walking back to the river. "Where are we going?" Ace asked. "We have something in common," the croc said. "I'm lost like you." "Where do you need to go?" Ace asked. "Just to the river," said the croc, "but I can take you where you need to go." "I have to find my mom," Ace said. "She's somewhere on the river." He felt the current against his legs. "But we have to go upstream. It will be hard to swim against the current." "I'm strong," said the croc. "I can handle it." So the croc swam upstream with the Ace on his back and against the flow of the water. At a calm section of river, they heard Ace's mom quacking sadly. The croc swam toward the sound. "Ah!" yelled Ace's mom. "Swim away!" She implored the other ducklings. "Don't run," said the croc, but this did not stop the ducks. "Mom," Ace called, "it's me." But this did not stop the mom. All the ducks started swimming upstream with the croc chasing behind them and yelling, "Don't run!" Eventually, Ace lost his family again. Ace began to cry. "Don't feel sad," the croc said. "We will find them again." The croc took Ace over to the riverbank, where Ace jumped off the croc's head and found a place to sit down because he was still upset. Suddenly, Ace heard a loud honking sound overhead. Ace looked up and saw a goose. The goose saw Ace crying and landed near him. "Why are you crying, little duckling?" it asked. "I lost my family again," Ace said. The goose said, "I saw a family of ducks that was running from something." Ace shot up from the ground and said, "Can you take me there?" The goose kindly replied, "Yes." So Ace quickly got on the goose's back and started flying over there. As they went up into the sky, Ace yelled, "Thank you, Croc." The goose started flying super fast until she saw Ace's mom, then landed right in front of her. Ace thanked the goose and jumped off the goose's back and ran to his mom. He was home. Going to Space by Kennedy Penley. Emily's mom was an astronaut, which made Emily want to go to space. "Mom, I want to go to space," Emily said. "No," said Mom, "it's too dangerous." "But I want to go," Emily said. "What if you get abducted?" Mom said. "But what if I don't?" "You might." Her mother looked at her and smiled. "Just go to bed. I'll see you in the morning." By the time Emily got to her room, Mom had fallen asleep in her bedroom. But Emily didn't go to sleep. She climbed out the window and ran to her mom's rocket. Emily stood in front of the panel and saw lots of buttons. As she looked around, her back accidentally pressed some of the buttons. She heard a loud beep, and the engine started to roar. She sat down in the pilot's chair and buckled her seatbelt just before the rocket blasted off. It felt bumpy and a lot like an airplane ride, but one that flew straight up into the night sky. Emily saw so many stars, brightly flickering, and she had never been so close to the moon before. It was mesmerizing to see Earth from above the stars. Once Emily was in space, her mom heard the rocket and ran outside. She saw that the rocket was gone, and then she ran to Emily's room and realized that Emily was gone too. Her mom felt scared. She frantically tried to contact Emily. "Emily, Emily, where are you?" Her mom spoke into the radio. "Mom, I accidentally pressed a button and I lifted off. I'm in space," Emily replied, a mix of excitement and fear in her voice. "Emily, we have to get you back home." "Can you see a series of yellow buttons?" her mom asked. "Yes, I see them. Should I press them?" "Press them all at the same time," Mom directed. Emily spread her fingers wide, placing each one onto a yellow button. When she pressed, the rocket started to turn around and go back home. Since she knew she wouldn't be back in space again soon, Emily stared out the windows. She saw comets zooming by, and she could see Earth grow in size as she got closer and closer. Emily asked her mom to help her with the landing, since she'd never done that before. And when she got home, her mom hugged her and said, "Now get back to bed." Everything was back to normal, and Emily got her wish. Mermaid Adventures by Louise G. I sighed and laid back down in my backyard. I had just got back from my first day of school, and it was terrible. I'd been teased and bullied till I wanted to cry. I'd been left out of everything, and the other students had said mean things to me. I sighed again, my long braids swinging. I looked up in the sky. In the clouds, I saw a mermaid and different kinds of fish. Suddenly, I heard a chant. It said, "Human legs to mermaid tails, where a kingdom lays beneath the whales. Shall you also with them lay? If you wish to go there, then you may." I began to feel dizzy. I was spinning. I closed my eyes and soon the spinning stopped. When I opened my eyes again, I gasped. I was surrounded by water, and I had a tail. I was a mermaid. I smiled and looked around. I was in a beautiful coral reef with colorful fish, big and small. I swam around in a circle. I looked down at my tail. Sparkling pink and shiny purple scales shimmered in the water. I heard laughter and turned around to see more mermaids laughing and playing with the fish. I swam toward them, and one of them noticed me. "Hey, look over there," the mermaid said to her friend, looking at me. They swam toward me. "Hi, I'm Lily, and these are my friends, Violet and Daisy." "What's your name?" Violet had a sparkly ruby red tail. Daisy had a shining sapphire blue tail. Lily had emerald scales that danced in sunlight in the water. We were near the surface. "My name's Rose," I said softly. "What a pretty name," Daisy said. "Much prettier than mine," said Violet enviously. "Can you help me?" I asked them. "I don't know how to get home." My heart was growing heavy. "Oh," said Lily quietly. "We'll help you," said Daisy. "Me too," said Lily, her voice sharp with determination. "Okay," said Violet, with hesitation in her voice. "We need to get the gem?" Daisy said, as if it were a question. "Yes, we need to get that gem," Lily said loudly. "How?" I asked Lily. "Let me tell you a story," Lily said to us, and then she began. "Once in the magic ocean there was a gem known as the mermaid gem. It was powerful enough to make a human a mermaid," Lily said. "Wow," I said, enchanted by the story. "I know," said Lily. "What happened to the gem?" Daisy asked. Lily frowned. "A sea enchantress stole the gem, claiming it was hers." Lily's eyes were flaming. "But it didn't belong to her," Lily burst out. "Queen Coral made it." Lily paused to take a deep breath. "Calm down, Lily," I said softly and smoothly. "Let's go find the cave," said Daisy. "But we don't know where the cave is," Lily sniffled. "We can use the finding gem," Violet said excitedly. Everyone looked at her. She had been quiet for so long, they had forgotten she was there. "What are we waiting for?" Violet asked. "Let's go." And with one flick of her tail, she was gone. "Well," I said, "I guess we better follow her," said Daisy. "Then let's go," said Lily, and with one flick of her tail, she was gone. Daisy took off next, and I followed her as fast as I could. "Wait up," I called to them. "Come on, Slowpoke, keep up." Violet, who was in front, shouted back at me. I flicked my tail hard, and I went zooming off, catching up to Lily. Finally, Violet slowed down, and I was able to catch up and ask my question. "Where's the finding gem anyway?" I asked Violet. "Oh, my family found it in the ocean a long time ago," Violet told me. "So it's old," I said. They arrived at Violet's shiny coral house. Violet's parents didn't like visitors inside the house, so she asked us to wait outside while she went inside quickly to get the finding gem. In a few minutes, she came back outside carrying a medium-sized seaweed green gem. She was also carrying a scepter. Then she said the magic words, "Take us to this hidden cave where we can save the day." The scepter pulled her away from her hands, and the mermaids followed as fast as they could. I pumped my tail as fast as I could to keep up with everyone else. In the distance, I could see a flicker of green leaning against a dark wall. The closer we came, the more nervous I felt. It wasn't a wall, it was the cave. Finally, we stopped outside the cave. Daisy said, "There must be a button somewhere. Come on, girls, let's find it." We spread out to search all around the wall where the gem was leaning. Lily cried out, "Here it is, I found it." We all swam over to her. Lily's hand was against a dark part of the wall jutting out of the wall. Lily pushed her hand against the wall with all of her might. Then the wall gave an enormous groan, and part of the wall started to move, revealing an entrance to a secret cave. Lily turned to us and said, "Shh, we don't want to wake the sea enchantress. That would be the worst thing that could happen." We swam silently into the dark and gloomy cave. Violet whispered, "I don't like the look of this." Lily whispered, "I don't either." Daisy said, "It's too dark to see anything." "Ouch, I think I bumped into the wall." I said, "I think I have a flashlight with me from before this all started." I fished out a flashlight and pressed the button. A beam of light shone out onto the floor. I pointed the light ahead, and we all gasped. A giant mermaid was sleeping with a long gold scepter in her hand with ruby red jewels decorating it. Her loud snores made the cave rumble. I thought, that must be the sea enchantress. Violet whispered, "No one wake her up." We swam silently over her to find a clamshell just a little bigger than the other gem, but large enough to hold a gem. "I think the mermaid gem is inside," I whispered. I gently tried to pry it open, but it was glued shut. I said, "I can't pry it open. I need some help." Daisy whispered, "I think I can help with that," and pulled something sharp from her pocket. She used her tool to gently pry open the shell. Inside was a pink sparkling gem. We all stared at it. Lily whispered, "It's the mermaid gem." I gently lifted it from the shell. It felt as light as a feather. I asked, "Can its magic work in here?" Violet said, "No, we need to use it somewhere else. It can't work inside this dark cave." Suddenly a giant snore rumbled from the sea enchantress. We all looked at her. We'd forgotten she was there. Daisy and Violet whispered, "Let's go." We started swimming until we were above the sea enchantress. Suddenly she rolled over, spooking us. I felt too scared to move. Thankfully, she didn't wake up, and I kept swimming all the way to the entrance of the cave with the mermaid gem still clutched in my hand. Once we were all out of the cave, Violet asked, "Where's your flashlight, Rose?" I looked down and noticed I must have dropped it without even realizing it. I said, "Oh no, my parents are going to be so mad." Lily said, "It doesn't matter because we all got out with the gem without even waking the sea enchantress up." Then Violet said, "We should close the cave, but how do we do that?" Lily said, "Just push the button again. That will close and lock the cave, just like it was before." Daisy quickly closed the cave again and said, "We better go now, so Rose can get home." We all swam as fast as we could away from the cave. We soon arrived back at the village, and Lily said, "I think you should see Queen Coral before you go." Daisy and Violet nodded their heads in agreement. I said, "I don't think I have time. I hope my parents haven't noticed I'm missing by now. Can I come back soon?" "You can come back any time. We will call you here," Violet said. Violet handed me the scepter, whispering the magic chant to go home. I repeated the chant back to her, and I was suddenly surrounded by golden light. Something pulled me to the surface, and before I knew it, I was back in my backyard. It had all happened so magically, but when I looked into my hand, the gem was gone. In its place, I saw a very beautiful and colorful necklace with a gem inside a scepter and 3 mermaids with my friends' names beside them. There was a little folded piece of paper with the necklace. I unfolded and read the note. It said, "Rub the gem with the scepter on the necklace when you want to return to our world. Then you'll be back with us. Love, Lily, Violet, and Daisy." Then I knew my adventure had not all been a dream. I couldn't wait to go to see my friends again. The Jewel by Lydia Aline Parsley. One day, Mike ran out of school and told his friend, "Y'all, I went on the computer and I saw that there's a jewel and it's in this queen's castle. We need that jewel so we can be rich." "No," said William. "Are you chicken?" asked Edward. "Fine, I'll come," replied William. "Okay then, come on," said Mike. That night, they set an alarm for 1 o'clock. They went to bed early so they would have enough energy tomorrow. Later, they all met outside. "Okay, y'all, here's the plan." "Let's go," whispered Mike. So they got on their bikes and pedaled. 2 hours later, they got to the castle. "I'm so exhausted," said Mike. 5 seconds later, wham! A guard locked them in a cell. "You will never get out, ever," the guard said. "Please don't throw us in here," William pleaded. "How are we going to get out of here?" whispered Edward. "He literally just said we are never getting out of here," William whispered back. An hour later, "I'm so hungry," wailed Mike. "Wait, look. One of the bars is loose," said Edward. "Come on, let's pull the bars down," said Mike. 5 minutes later, "Jump!" yelled Mike. "Ah!" They landed in the room with the jewel. "Oh my God," said William. "There's the jewel. Get it." They snatched the jewel, but the alarm screamed, "Beep, beep." Uh-oh. Then they broke into a fight with the guards. Everyone was throwing punches. Pow! Bam! An hour later, they ran off. "We won," yelled Edward. "Run, run, let's go." "Finally, we're home," Mike said, out of breath. "Let's go to the jeweler." "Okay," said Edward. So they went to the jeweler. "Here," said William. "Wow, this jewel is worth millions," said the jeweler, amazed. "Thank you," said Mike. Then they spent it all on video games and ended up with 5 extra lives. The end. Hairstyling for the Stars by Madeline Wright. There once was a boy named Brandon. He lived in a small village with around 100 other people. He had the best life ever. Brandon had a girlfriend named Lily. She had short brown hair and wore t-shirts and pants and was very nice. She always wanted to make people happy. When Brandon met her, he felt like the luckiest guy around. One day, something happened. Brandon was talking with his friends. "Sup, dudes, how is it going? Any good or bad news?" Max sighed heavily. "We're moving. Far away. All of us, as soon as possible. Everyone in the village. We don't know about Lily. Her parents are still deciding what to do," Connor said sadly. Poison dart frogs and snakes had been infesting the area, and it was getting worse. They were almost everywhere you look now. People had been moving to New York to get away from here. Brandon was in his room, crying heavily into his pillow. "Why is this happening to me?" he said through tears. He cried all night long. He had been sad before, like when he heard his parents died after they accidentally touched a poison dart frog, or when his best friend in 1st grade moved to Florida when his father got a new job there. But this is different. "This I will never let go, ever," Brandon said in a sorrowful voice, crying himself to sleep. His parents' will demanded that he stay here, so he can't leave with the rest of the village. It was morning in Brandon's village, and sunlight was streaming through Brandon's window. Clatter, clatter, click, crash. Ugh, what are they doing now? Brandon groaned. Then he remembered. Oh, no, they better not. At least not today, Brandon said to himself. Brandon jumped out of bed and threw on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt. As soon as he finished putting his clothes on, he raced outside, and the sight he saw made him cry. Big trucks were parked and filled with people's stuff. Moving trucks, Brandon gasped. Then he saw the worst sight of all. Lily was waving to him. Brandon waved back. Before he knew it, she was gone. His favorite person in the world. Everyone he knew was gone. Brandon was on his own for the next 5 years, until he was 23 years old. Then one day he saw a car and ran toward it. As the car came to a stop, the window rolled down and a familiar face appeared. "Connor," Brandon exclaimed. "How—" "No time. I found Lily. You have to hurry, though. Just hop in," Connor said. Brandon hesitated for a moment. He thought of all those years stuck in the village. He knew he had to follow his parents' will, but then again he thought to himself, he had been stuck in this village his whole life. He was born here, he was raised here, and he lived here. But as much as he loved his parents, he knew that he couldn't spend his whole life by himself. Finally, he hopped in. "Are we there yet?" Brandon groaned. "Actually, this time we are. Welcome to New York," Connor said. Brandon gasped in wonder. He had always dreamed of going to New York. It had been an hour since they arrived at Connor's place, and Brandon wanted to look for Lily. Fine, I'll tell you where she is," said Connor. "She's right next door." "What?" Brandon screamed. Brandon raced next door, and then he saw her, the one he hadn't seen in years, the love of his life. Brandon cried with joy as he saw her and raced over to her. He gave her the biggest hug he ever gave. "Oh, Brandon, where have you been all these years? Why couldn't you have come sooner? I've been stuck in this hair salon, and I live in this tiny shack, and I have so little money. Please help me," Lily said. "Also, since we have not been together, well, we should get married. The two of us, together once and for all. That was our dream. We need to make that dream come true." Everyone was applauding like crazy. Brandon and Lily had just married. It was the best day of their lives. Everything was going perfectly. Brandon was the most happy, though. His dream had come true, the dream to marry Lily. Finally, after 5 long years, he was happy. And the wedding was just fabulous. The flowers were white and pink, and there were shrimp platters and cake and tea and such beautiful roses, exactly like he imagined. "Brandon, do you want me to teach you how to do hair?" Lily asked, but Brandon was staring at something else. "OMG, Taylor, is that you? I haven't even seen you in so long. I said I saw you were in the village," Brandon said. "Oh, hey, Brandon, long time no see. And also, yes, it is me. And also, I am a super famous pop star now, and I go by the name Taylor Swift, even though that is really my name," Taylor said. Then she walked off. "All right, Brandon, now you can answer my question. Do you want to learn how to hairstyle or not? Maybe we can do it on famous people like our old friend Taylor Swift," Lily said. "That's an awesome idea, Lily," Brandon said. The next day, Lily taught Brandon how to cut hair and be a hairstylist. The day after that, they opened their business. Taylor was their first customer. She walked in and said, "I need a haircut today. Can you make like a cute thing for my concert tonight? Also, if you want to come, you can have free tickets if you want," she said. They accepted the offer, and Taylor handed them the tickets. Once they were done with Taylor's hair, she was so amazed about how awesome it looked that she paid them $100 billion. They were loaded. They wanted to do anything for her now because she'd made them rich, super rich. "What shall we do with this money?" Lily exclaimed. "You can do anything you want to do with it," Taylor said. So they did. But first they went to the concert. They went to many other things too. They went on their honeymoon, and they went along with life, together, forever and always. The end. Corgi for President by Mary Foley. Monday. Hello, and welcome to my very first entry of my very own Corgi diary. My owner's name is Sam, and my neighbor is a Corgi like me. Her name is June. Tuesday. June and I have been thinking. We're trying to get me to be president. I know it's a weird idea, but we talked to Sam about this, and he said he's going to arrange a meeting for June and me to go to. Wednesday. June and I went to the White House to meet with President Whitehair, the crocodile. I was scared when we were on the bus to go to the White House. June told me not to worry. She told me I'd be fine. You'll make a great president, she said. When the bus arrived, we slowly walked towards the front of the bus, and before we knew it, we were sitting at a large table in the White House. After a lot of talking with the president, he finally said I was the smallest president he'd ever seen, so we'd have to face some challenges. Thursday. These are the challenges President Whitehair asked me to do. Number 1, sleep until 12 p.m. Number 2, fish for a bird. Number 3, have a pizza party. Fish for a bird? Now these are some weird challenges. June and I plan to do all of them tomorrow. Friday. I'm very excited for today. I'm going to do the challenges today, but June is definitely going to help me. So we're having a sleepover today. I'm sleeping in my bed with June right by me. Our first challenge is to sleep in until 12, so we are trying to do that now. It should be easy. All I have to do is sleep. Saturday. Okay, it's 12. June, wake up, I yelled. We did it. June woke up. Yeah, she said happily. Let's move on to the next challenge. Oh, it's fish for a bird. We better get going, I thought. So June and I quickly ran to the bus stop, headed up the stairs to our seats, and sat there panting. After a while, the bus stopped, and the driver said, "Fishing pond." "That's us," I said to June. We walked to the front of the bus and hopped down the stairs into the field by the pond. "Let's go to that shed over there," I said. "Okay," June said. Sure enough, there were fishing poles in the shed. Once we got the fishing poles, we put worms we found in the shed on our hooks and tossed them into the pond. We waited for a while, but nothing. 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 But then out of the blue, June said, "Wait, we can't fish for a bird. We need to catch a bird." "No," I insisted. "I don't break rules." "Aw, it will be fine," June begged. "Okay," I said. So before I knew it, we were climbing a nearby magnolia tree. Suddenly, I spotted a robin, so I leaped off the tree, opened my mouth, and reached for the bird, then fell to the ground. I tasted bird poop in my mouth, but I had done it. I'd finished the second challenge. Now all I had to do was have a pizza party. Well, we decided to skip the third challenge because there was no way President Whitehair would know whether we had a pizza party or not. So now all we have to do is go to President Whitehair, but we were going to do that tomorrow. Sunday. I was sitting in a chair in President Whitehair's office. I felt slippery in my chair because my feet were sweating so much. June was in the chair beside me. I knew that she was nervous too. President Whitehair was saying that I could be a corgi president, but I had to be one with President Whitehair, and that was fine with me. He also said that June could be the vice president if she wanted. "Yes," June said excitedly, "I would love to be." "Okay," President Whitehair said. I suddenly felt happy. We had done it. The end. Blob Bob by Maddie Waltz. It was a normal Tuesday afternoon, and I was writing comics in my room. I love writing comics. They are fun. As I was writing, I heard footsteps. "I'm doomed," I shivered. Then it happened. My dad gave me the stare, the most lethal weapon. "Get back to homework," Dad said, a.k.a. legal torture. I called my friend Smiley. "Let's start a party," he said. So yeah, I'm going to start a party. But here's the problem. I don't have the supplies, and Supermart's employees are sketchy, like really sketchy. So I try to stay away from them. And their boss is 4 years old, and he's a little on the no-brainer side of this story. But the good thing is I have my dog. Doggo's simple, but smart, and he's really cute. And he's 9 feet tall and 400 pounds. I love him so much. He rides me around my hometown, Doodle World. So I rode my dog to Supermart. When I got there, I said, confetti and cake. While I was walking out, I saw one of their sketchy employees. I had been preparing for this. "What's your passcode?" he asked. "Blob 10, I said. I crossed my fingers because I was lying. "Okay," said the employee. "Phew," I sighed. So then I ran out of the store as fast as I could. Phew, now that that's over with, I can find a place to throw the party. On Unicorn Lane on the Rainbow. But to get there, I have to out-cute the sacred carrot, and he's really cute. The sacred carrot is the ruler of the rainbow, and he will only let you into his rainbow palace, the best place for parties, if you can out-cute his beady eyes. So it's going to be hard. I got Doggo and went to the rainbow, and there he was, shining in his carrot seat with all of his cute glory. I walked up there feeling confident, not too worried about myself. Then I said, "I have come here to out-cute you." He replied, "That will not be done." Then I whipped out my cute little eyes, and he whipped out his. It was a stare-down. Of course, there had to be a judge there. This dude, for some reason his name was Durpo, had an oval-shaped face. Of course, I won by a landslide. The sacred carrot was about to uncute me when he had that little slobber coming out of his mouth. But then I pushed and I pushed and I pushed. My eyes popped out and they were bigger than a basketball. Durpo said, "That's the cutest thing I've ever seen." Then I won. I walked into the gate to the Rainbow Palace, and that place had everything. I searched around the palace for 2 hours. It was really big, looking for the perfect party place. I decided it was going to be in the Rainbow Ballroom. It had rainbows everywhere and a giant statue of the sacred carrot. It was beautiful. You could look at the floor and see glass everywhere. Below the floor were a bunch of cute little dogs running around. Doggo wandered out without me noticing while I was looking around the place. The next thing I knew, he was stuck under the floor with the other dogs. I wasn't sure how he got under there since he was 9 feet tall. There was only one little doggy door. Then I noticed a giant 9-foot-tall crack in the wall. I had to get him out. I ran down the stairs and jumped in front of Doggo. All the other dogs were climbing all over his body, so I plucked them off his giant body. Then we ran to the giant staircase to escape the dog room, and after an exhausting run up the staircase, we were finally out. I set up everything for the party and invited all of my friends. The party was awesome. Everybody was partying, dancing to the best music, drinking Kool-Aid, enjoying the cake, and stepping on the confetti on the floor. Then something struck my eye. When I moved my foot and brushed the confetti aside, it seemed that there were no dogs under the glass floor. Then I saw a little head pop out of the door to the ballroom. Then I saw 2 heads, then 3, then 4, then 5, and then a bunch of dogs came running into the ballroom. Everybody screamed. I didn't know what to do. I was frozen, stuck in time. I knew I had to do something, so I got my big dog, Doggo, and sent him over. Doggo picked up the dogs gently with his mouth and put them back into a pile. He had to do this over and over again until I could finally call the royal guards of the Rainbow Palace. The royal guards were actually broccoli. The broccoli guards picked up the dogs and put them all back into their cage. After a lot of tries, they finally found a way to seal the doggy door. We returned to peace and party. We had tons of fun, and it was a great day. Luna and Dragon Coco by Sophie V. Get lost, go home, be happy. Monday. Luna, a girl cat, just moved into this new town and is super excited to make some friends. She decided to go looking for other cats and had a bad idea. She left home and got caught. She was put into a cage by people with suits and weird outfits on. She hated it. After she was in the cage, they put her in a weird tube. It was made out of plain plastic, and they locked the door. The door was a weird purpley blue swirl. "Help! Get me out!" Luna yelled. "Stop! I do not want to do this!" But all the humans could hear was, "Meow, meow, meow, meow." Luna went through the purpley blue swirl, and it was a portal. It felt smushy and weird inside. "Ah!" she yelled as she fell straight down. She landed on another portal. This one looked just the same as the last one, purpley blue and swirly. She felt herself falling through the second portal. "Ah!" she screamed. All of a sudden, Luna popped out into space. She was floating, and it felt really weird. She used her magic to create a force field bubble around herself to keep herself safe. She saw stars, planets, and something else cool. Actually, it looked like it might be hot. What? She was confused. Where am I? In the distance, Luna saw a little blurry dot. It got closer and closer and closer. She wasn't sure what it was, but it looked scary. She was glad she had a force field around her. She used her magic to make a little cup of tea because she felt safe. As the dot got closer, it got bigger and bigger. She noticed it had wings and a tail and weird bumps on its head. When it got close enough, she finally realized what it was. It was a dragon. She was scared half to death, so she stayed in her bubble for 1 hour. The dragon flew around the bubble in circles, whistling a little tune. As it whistled, small bursts of fire came out of its mouth. Then a really big burst of fire came out, and the dragon went straight through the fire. The dragon was gone. Where did it go? I'm uncomfortable. Then, out of nowhere, the dragon popped up again. Weird white stuff floated right off the dragon. The white stuff landed on half of Luna's bubble and made that half invisible. That's when she realized that the white stuff was the stuff that made the dragon invisible. Luna noticed that the dragon hadn't hurt anyone. It was just flying around, turning invisible and uninvisible. She decided to take down her force field and ask the dragon a question. If you can make yourself invisible, can you make a portal that I can travel through to get back home? Yes, said the dragon. I certainly can, but it takes a little bit of magic to do that. I have magic. I can share it with you, Luna said. If I can share it with you, then you can probably make a portal, right? Yes, I definitely can if you give me a little bit of magic. But how would you do that if you're just a cat? Said the dragon. Well, I'm not just a cat. I'm dirty, I know, but maybe if I shake off the dirt, you'll see what I am, said Luna. The dragon squirted a little bit of water from his mouth to wash off Luna. Wow, you have marks just like me, said the dragon. Those marks mean that we both have magic. If you have magic, you can share some of that with me, and I can make a portal that will take you back home. So let's make that portal, said Luna. First the dragon lit up his purple marks and let out all the magic he had. Then Luna zapped her magic right over to the dragon. That helped the dragon get stronger. Luna's marks turned all sorts of colors: red, orange, yellow, blue, green, violet, pink, and white. There was a little toot sound and a portal appeared. Luna and the dragon floated over to the portal together. They felt happy because they both wanted to go home. The dragon flew into the portal and Luna grabbed onto his tail. Then poof, they both went through the portal together, Luna and the dragon. Then, when they came out of the portal, Luna looked around. She didn't know where she was. She was in a forest, and there was plenty more dragons around, too. She didn't feel very comfortable here. Oops, said the dragon. I think when I said take us home, the portal took us to my home instead of yours. What? Yelled Luna. I almost made it home. Well, at least I'm not in space. That was awful. I hated it there. It will take me about 5 hours to recharge and make another portal, said the dragon. Maybe you could stay here until then? Oh, that sounds great. There's a bunch of dragons around that might eat me. That sounds wonderful. Sure, that would be just wonderful. What are you thinking? Luna asked. Are you crazy or something? Do you want me to just die? No, I just want to get you home, said the dragon. Why don't you come to my hut in the tree and take a nap while my magic recharges? Yes, Luna said. After a nice 5-hour nap, Luna woke up. I'm ready, said the dragon as he opened the new portal. Frip! The sound of the portal was loud. Here I go, said Luna. Bye, said the dragon. Luna fell backwards through the portal. As she traveled home, she thought about how much fun she'd had with the dragon. And then she plopped right in front of her house. After that, Luna never left home again without permission. Charlotte's Hope by Sylvia R. Charlotte sat on the plane looking out the window. Her mom sat beside her, holding her stomach. Charlotte, can you get my medicine? She asked. Charlotte looked at her mom. Yes, she said, sounding angry. Charlotte, I know this move will be hard, but we will get through it, okay? Her mother rubbed her stomach with one hand. Plus, your brother's coming soon. I don't care about the baby anymore, Charlotte screamed. Her mom looked angry now and said, No more about it. Once they had their bags, her mom called a cab and only talked to Ella on the way to their new house. When she got out of the car and looked up the driveway, Charlotte had to admit it was nice. When Charlotte opened the door, it was even better inside. Charlotte was starving. She sat down, her sister close behind her. Ella, please get the meatballs, said Mom, avoiding eye contact with Charlotte, but handing her a plate. After dinner, Charlotte rushed upstairs to her room and opened the door. Boxes covered the floor, and there was a loft bed in the corner. She did not want to find her pajamas because she was so tired. As she climbed up the ladder, she almost fell asleep. In the morning, she wanted to stay in bed and not go to school, but soon she was on the school bus. After she got off the bus, people started whispering. All of a sudden, a boy called, "New girl! New girl!" Almost everyone started chanting. Charlotte felt awful. She waited out the day. No one talked to her. When she got home, instead of seeing her mom, she saw her grandpa and grandma with Ella, chattering excitedly. "What's going on?" Charlotte asked. "Your mom's water broke," said her grandpa excitedly. "Who took her to the hospital?" Charlotte asked. "The ambulance came," answered Ella. "She'll be back in 3 days." Charlotte was in shock. She didn't know how to react. It felt weird as her legs walked forward to sit down. It felt like she was sinking into the pillows. Grandma was deaf, but she could tell Charlotte was lost. She wrapped a comforting arm around her granddaughter and smiled. After dinner, Charlotte curled up on the couch and fell asleep. She woke up and slowly but surely glanced at the clock. It was 8 a.m. She wanted to get up and wait! Tomorrow was her birthday, and Mom was coming home. That was great. But then she remembered how mean she had been the other day. She was not as excited anymore. As her grandma walked in, she pointed one finger up and made a circle with it. That meant good morning in sign language. Thankfully, it was Saturday. No school. But Charlotte could not stop thinking about her mom holding her new baby and how mean she had been to her. Charlotte's grandma put a stack of pancakes on the table in front of her. Suddenly, her grandpa marched in, sort of muttering to himself. Charlotte and Ella were confused. Finally, he looked at them. "Well," he said, "finish up. We're going to the hospital to visit your mom and Louis." "Louis?" asked Ella. "Your brother," Grandpa answered. Louis, thought Charlotte. Louis. As they arrived and went inside, Charlotte felt her stomach lurch. She did not know if it was the temperature that was rising or what, but as they got out, it felt like she was going to explode. Then she opened the door. Her mouth dropped. The room was small, but there was a bed. Sitting up was their mom, doodling on a notepad. Ella had not hesitated. She ran toward her mom. Her mom wrapped her arms around Ella. Slowly, Charlotte felt her legs moving forward. Before she knew it, she was in Mom's arms. "I am sorry, Mom," Charlotte said. "Thanks," said her mom, kissing Charlotte on the cheek. "Now can we see the baby?" Ella asked. "Yes," said Mom, "but be quiet. He's sleeping." Charlotte waited and said, "Who will I invite to my party?" "Well, you could invite Kate," said her mom. "Who?" "Kate. Her mom gave birth when I came here, and she wants a new friend." "Really?" "Yeah, now go see your brother." Charlotte went over to the little crib where everyone was. "Louis has the cutest little feet," said Grandpa. "Louis, your brother." She studied her brother. His hair was pitch black, just like hers. She smiled. The next day was her party. Her mom had come home and was now nursing Louis. Charlotte waited for Kate. A car pulled into her driveway. Kate stepped out and waved and ran toward Charlotte. "Hi," she said, beaming. "Hi," said Charlotte with a smile. Not only did she have a new brother, but a new friend as well. When Bobzilla Invaded Hollywood by Thomas Pierce and Samuel Goosey. Even though it was foggy and a little cold, Thomas and Samuel decided to go surfing in Hollywood. The weather was calm for the first hour or so, but though the waves were getting higher, the sky was getting darker too. Soon they could barely see the shore. Just as they had decided to call it a day, they heard a sound. It sounded like 100 dolphins choking on the tails of bluefin tunas. They looked toward the sound and saw purple spikes piercing through the fog. A hideous creature was emerging from the ocean. The water spilled off his smooth skin like rain on a windshield, and it smelled like a dumpster on fire. The creature was as tall as a jumbo jet. Before they knew what was happening, a big purple laser exploded from Bobzilla's mouth onto a nearby wave. The Coast Guard, patrolling nearby, saw a big splash and could make out Bobzilla swimming toward the beach. Bobzilla swam right past Thomas and Samuel, making waves so big they caused the boys to fall off their surfboards. As Thomas and Samuel swam back to shore, their heads bobbed above the waves. Through the salty water, they could see Bobzilla shooting lasers at the beach. Sand was shooting into the sky and falling like rain. A group of people were screaming and running away, leaving towels, umbrellas, and everything else behind them. When Thomas and Samuel reached the shore, they ran to their car, a Bugatti Blondie they'd bought together with years' worth of allowance. They sped down the road to a ramp that launched them to the beach, hopping out of the car just before Bobzilla hit it with a lightning bolt. Thankfully, the car was completely insured. From the back seat of the Bugatti, Thomas and Samuel grabbed 2 flamethrowers that thankfully survived the explosion and ran toward the clueless monster. They gave Bobzilla a pedicure with the flamethrowers, then shot him with a sleep dart. Within seconds, Bobzilla was knocked out cold. As he began to snore, streams of snot flowed from his giant nostrils, covering the beach with deep goo that took cleanup crews weeks to remove. The Coast Guard arrived to help with Bobzilla. They wrapped chains around him, attached the chains to Apache helicopters, and began the long journey to deposit Bobzilla to the depths of the Marianas Trench, where he would rest for eternity. Samuel and Thomas looked around at the carnage. They saw their smoking car and the snot-covered beach and wondered what started all of this. Was it an alien invasion? Where did Bobzilla come from? Was he a secret alien weapon? They had so many questions and so few answers. Thomas and Samuel had to walk home. Thankfully, there was a new car in the driveway waiting for them with a note on the dashboard from the big boss, Joe Biden. The note said, "Samuel and Thomas, we need you to report to the White House immediately. Signed, President Biden." The end. Burj Khalifa by Walter Givens. "I want to go to the Burj Khalifa," said Hank to his parents when they were eating breakfast. The Burj Khalifa is a skyscraper in Dubai. It is the tallest building in the world. It looks like a giant rocket ship with a needle-like point. It is 2,716 feet tall and has more than 160 floors. "We will see, but remember, you were only 5. Hank just wanted some adventure. It was summer and he just wanted to go to the top. Hank wanted to go to the Burj Khalifa because it is the tallest building in the world. Hank went up to his room to plan all the things they could do in Dubai, like the Dubai Aquarium and underwater zoo, the Miracle Garden, and the Dubai Water Park, when his parents came in and said, "The plane ride is very expensive, and also to get in is very expensive. Are you sure you want to go?" Hank said, "Is this a trick question?" "No," said his mom. "Well, yeah," said Hank. "Well, why do you want to go?" His parents knew it was a skyscraper, but they didn't know it was the tallest building in the world. "Because it's the tallest building in the world," Hank shouted. "Okay," squeaked Hank's parents, and then they left. Later, his parents came in and said, "It is too expensive." "No," said Hank. The next day, his parents woke him up, and his dad said, "How about we have a Nerf war instead of going?" "Okay," Hank mumbled. He had a ton of Nerf guns. They set up forts, and Hank got the best gun. He gave his parents 5 guns, and they played for an hour or more. The next summer on his birthday, his parents said, "We can go to the Burj Khalifa." Not 1 second of this trip was boring. The first day when they got to Dubai, they went to the Palm Jumeirah, which is a big beach that looks like a palm tree. There are leaves that sprout from the side, and each leaf has 2 beaches. After that, they went to the Burj Khalifa. Hank was so excited. At the top, after the glass elevator, Hank felt like he was going to fall off. The people looked like fleas, and the roads looked like pencils. When Hank got home, he told all of his friends about his trip, and now they want to go as well. Hank realizes at that moment that he won't be doing that again anytime soon. But now, whenever Hank is bored, he thinks of the Burj Khalifa and all the other places he's going to visit someday. The Capture by Waverly Vaughn. With their moms, Anya and Aaliyah walked in the forest, gathering food. There was plenty to find. Anya's mom used her magical unicorn horn to get a sweet apple from a nearby tree, and Aaliyah's mom flew with her fairy wings to a tree filled with pears. Aaliyah and Anya, only 3 years old, played together. Suddenly they heard a shout. Hurry, run, there's someone trying to catch the unicorns and the fairies. Hurry, get the babies to a safe place, yelled Onya's mom to Aaliyah's mom. Onya and Aaliyah knew that if they got captured, their magic would be stolen. Run, mommies, run, said Onya and Aaliyah together. Onya and Aaliyah's moms ran and hid Onya and Aaliyah in a cave with a hole on top to the outside. You'll be safe here, their moms assured them. Then the mommies ran so that they didn't put the babies in danger. Then Onya and Aaliyah heard a big boom. From the hole on top of the cave, Onya and Aaliyah saw their mommies getting sucked into a ship, the ship of the people who were trying to capture the unicorns and fairies. Onya's and Aaliyah's parents were gone. 7 years later, Onya and Aaliyah were 10. It was hard to live on their own, but they had each other. They built a house out of wood and leaves from the trees in the forest. Their house was cozy, their beds were soft, and their walls were strong. One morning, as the sun was just rising, Onya and Aaliyah enjoyed watching the pink, orange, and purple colors in the sky. The day before, Onya and Aaliyah had talked about going on a hike to find hot cocoa trees to get hot cocoa from. After breakfast, Onya and Aaliyah went outside and were about to start hiking when they heard someone from the icelands shout out, "Help! The ice crystal is out of its special place inside the ice cave. That means the ice is melting." "Onya," said Aaliyah, "we have to help the fairies and unicorns from the icelands. If we don't, it will all melt. We have to return the ice crystal to save the icelands." "I agree," said Onya. "Let's go pack a backpack to take just in case we need some equipment." "Okay," said Aaliyah. They packed rope and blankets and flashlights and scissors in an old green backpack. The icelands were not far, so it did not take long to get there. "It's cold. We should put our blankets on now," said Onya. "Yeah," said Aaliyah. Aaliyah unzipped the backpack and pulled out 2 blankets. She gave one to Onya and kept one. As Onya and Aaliyah went further into the icelands, they saw some ice melting, and the ice that was melting made a big cliff in front of them. "Aaliyah, grab the rope that we packed in the backpack," said Onya. "Okay," said Aaliyah. Aaliyah could not fly yet, and Onya could not use her magic. Aaliyah took out the rope from the backpack and tied one end of the rope to Onya's horn. Then she took out scissors and tied the other side to them. Aaliyah threw the end of the rope with the scissors across the cliff, and it landed on the other side. The scissors stuck deep into the ground. Aaliyah walked carefully across the rope, and once she got to the other side, she told Onya to jump. Onya could not walk on the rope because it was tied to her horn. Onya was scared, but she trusted her best friend, so she jumped. She started to fall, but then felt herself getting pulled up. It was Aaliyah. Once Onya was up, and Aaliyah started walking again, and soon they made it to the cave where the ice crystal was supposed to be. As they walked into the cave, Aaliyah tripped and landed with a thud. "Are you okay?" asked Onya. "Yes," said Aaliyah. "What did you trip on?" Aaliyah looked down. "The ice crystal," she gasped. Aaliyah picked it up. Then Aaliyah and Onya noticed that the ice was melting a lot. Onya and Aaliyah began to run. They ran and ran until they were trapped on an ice ledge. "Do you still have the rope tied to your horn?" asked Aaliyah. "No," said Onya. "It fell off when we were running." Then the ice cliff that Onya and Aaliyah were standing on got wet. The whole icelands would melt soon. Onya and Aaliyah looked forward to see where the ice crystal should have been. "Onya," said Aaliyah, "I have a plan. We need to find a sharp piece of ice first, though." "Okay," said Onya. Onya and Aaliyah looked around until Onya found a sharp piece of ice. Then Aaliyah explained the rest of her plan. "We can use this piece of ice to cut your tail," said Aaliyah. "Then I will make a rope out of it, and then we will tie it to the ice crystal and throw it to where the ice crystal should be." "Okay," said Onya. Aaliyah and Onya started to work. When they were done, Aaliyah threw the ice crystal to where it was supposed to be. Their plan worked, and all the ice started coming back. "We did it!" cried Aaliyah. "Yes!" screamed Onya. While Onya and Aaliyah were on their way back, they wondered if returning the ice crystal would also bring their moms back to their home. Could the ice crystal also be connected to the spaceship? As they approached their house, they suddenly saw their moms waiting for them with smiles. They ran to them. Then they all hiked to the forest to get hot cocoa from the hot cocoa trees to celebrate their moms finally being home. Mimi by Will J. Part 1. Mimi. I'm a dog. Mimi's my name. I love snuggles. I'm driving from Virginia. It's 4 hours. It feels like 50,000 centuries. I come from other dogs and an owner? I don't know. Well, I have a new owner now. Maybe this is what it means that a new family has bought me and I'm going to my forever home? Finally, we're here. I'm walking into a big, big space. It's big and white and has clear things on the sides. I can see faces on the inside. I think I'm adopted. Yay! Right now, the boy Will is snuggling me. It's so cool. I have butterflies in my tummy now. They're moving to my bladder. Ah! Mimi! Will jumps up, causing me to fall on the floor. You peed on my sock. His face makes me laugh. While they clean up my mess, Will tells me about our family. My mom is an artist. My dad is a real estate agent. And then there's Will. He always pets me. Everybody who sees me wants to pet me. I am so beautiful and great. Part 2. Will. Hi, my name is Will. It's Valentine's Day and my parents aren't home. Doesn't that stink? Ding, dong. That's the doorbell. Probably another package from my mom and dad who aren't here. Lucky them. Will, come down. Someone is here, otherwise they wouldn't be calling me. Maybe there's a present for me? I dash down the 2 flights of stairs. Sit crisscross applesauce and close your eyes, my mom directs. I have a surprise for you, says Mima, my grandmother. Suddenly I feel wiggly, fluffiness in my lap. I open my eyes and smile. It's a dog, I shout. Thank you so much. Then I suddenly realize my sock is wet. Ew, Mimi, you peed on my sock. She looks at me as if to say, I'll never do it again. But she will, once or twice. Part 3. Mimi. I am so excited to be with my new family. They take me for walks and they try to teach me to pee outside. It takes a while, but I finally learn. They give me a dog bed and I sleep there every night with Mommy and Daddy. My bed feels great. They feed me too, breakfast and dinner. Personally, I think they should feed me every single second, the treats especially. I snuggle with all of them, especially Will. I get so excited to be in his lap that I want to hold his hand in my mouth. He makes an owie sound. I think he likes it. I'll do it again. Mimi, don't ever do that again, Will says. But I will, once or twice. Part 4. Will and Mimi. I love this human, thinks Mimi. I love this puppy, whispers Will. Will and Mimi snuggle up in Will's bed, warm and cozy. They are content together.